The full moon bites your senses, the darkness knows your name. It whispers lies into the wind to convince them you're insane. Your friends ask friends, where you been? Yet it seems no one knows. The color black paints your lips and dominates all your clothes. Your walls adorned with Ouija boards, your bookcase may catch fire. From magic books and murder crooks, this fascination never tires. 'Cause somewhere not so long ago you woke and found the weird. Conspiracies and aliens, ancient demons, cults of fear. It's all more real than so-called news, it's everywhere you go. Thank God that John and Stacy welcomed you into the show. Welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow with your hosts, authors of Till Death and Beyond, John and Stacy Edwards of ParanormalSideshow.com. And welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow. I'm your host, John Edwards, and joined, as always, by my lovely wife, Stacy.
Hello.
And we are waiting for some competent weather. Just something that's not rainy, cold, freezing.
Right.
In May. And then, lukewarm and
cloudy.
And cloudy. When it gets warm, it gets cloudy. Just to screw with us.
Right.
And then on top of that, there's no freaking moon. It's like, I'm going to be the longest new moon ever. And then I'm going to be Slither Moon and Poo-Poo Moon and...
Behind a cloud moon.
Gibbous. I want you gibbous a moon. It's like, I remember the moon being around all the time until I wanted it.
Right.
So anyway, in case you can't tell, I got my moon camera.
Yes.
And been waiting now for over a week to be able to go out and live stream for you cats. And that was the whole point of it. Like, the whole point of this thing was because I really wanted to live stream for the patrons. And get out there and be like, hello, patrons. It's us, and we're live streaming, and we're going to watch the moon tonight to see if we can find any ballyhoo going on and see what happens.
Ballyhoo.
Tomfoolery. And
Shenanigans.
Because if you're going to see shenanigans, like, we want to see UFOs launching out of craters and all that good stuff, and be able to put it up and have the men in black come and say, please stop looking at the moon.
Yes.
And we'll be like, no, we're not going to stop looking at the moon because we paid a lot of money to look at the moon. So, we're going to see, looking for the Lunar Wave, and looking for midgets building bridges and Anything
out of the ordinary.
You can see Jupiter's red spot. You can see Saturn's rings. You can see Uranus.
Can you?
Well, we don't have to zoom that far for that. But that's what the people told me when I bought it.
I see. That was a selling point.
It was a big selling point.
I see.
Especially on beach trips. So... Anyway, it's also good for something like a vlog or something like that. You were excited about that part.
Right.
Some kind of, like, really pro camera. So, we're going to be doing, like, daily updates, but not on this one. That's for that Forbidden Door. That's for the wrestling one. That John Hawkins, my friend, does.
Right.
So, that's a really cool podcast, though. Have you ever heard it?
I have.
It's Blind Tag Wrestling.
Listened a few times.
Wrestling fans like it.
Yes, I like it, and I'm not a huge wrestling fan.
I know you're not.
But I still like the podcast because it's funny.
Yeah.
John Hawkins is a funny guy.
He is. And that chick sounds a lot like you.
She does, just younger.
Isn't that weird?
It's very strange.
It is very strange. You should be John Hawkins. You should all be John Hawkins for a couple of minutes at least. So anyway, we got the camera, and we're shooting with you, okay? It's seriously been the worst weather ever.
Yes.
And all through May, it's just been, we're like, what the hell? What month is this? Global what? Global nipples is what it should be. This just in. Due to all the trash, everyone's nipples will be erect all through May. It's just ridiculous. And it's gloomy, too. I hate when it's gloomy.
I know.
It's just like, I'm one of these people that, yes, I'm an October guy, I love the leaves blowing through and all that stuff. But even when that's happening, I like it to be a blue sky.
Right.
I really love it.
It's blue skies and sunshiny. Even if it's not that warm, it just makes you feel good.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. I crave it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm not going to lie and say, oh man, I really like it when it's gloomy. I only like it when it rains.
No, you absolutely don't. You like it when it's sunshiny.
Yeah. I believe arthritic bodies do
I think
something
so.
for that too. It's like, yeah, I like a nice clear day, please. But yeah, anyway, we're going to be doing that as soon as we can for you guys. And going to have a lot of fun. I can't wait till we see stuff. I can't wait till we're doing it. And like Jeff, hi Jeff, is like, did you guys see it? See, no, we didn't, because we were in the middle of a story.
Right.
Find out we weren't recording. Of course, it'll be on YouTube though. So, and then YouTube will take it down before we can do something. But we're gonna find a damn UFO, people, and we're gonna find the lunar wave. Do you know what the lunar wave is, people? Yeah, if you've listened the whole time, you know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically that thing that's letting us know it's either a fact that the moon's not real, and we're gonna find out that somewhere in Peoria they're got a film and
they're beaming that thing up there.
Yeah, they're beaming it up on that big whiteboard.
I think that must be what they're doing in like the Arctic.
Yeah.
They won't let you up there. They got big,
don't get them started.
Projectors.
Don't even get them started. You're gonna have a whole website dedicated to that now. ArcticProjector.com. Throughout the years, Admiral Byrd used to take different projector cells just to put the moon. You know what? I would be more impressed with the fact they were projecting the moon.
Right.
I mean, seriously, I think I'd be more worried about that than the fact that even being a satellite. Now, listen, I kind of think that the moon is an artificial satellite.
Right.
Like I believe that it's a spaceship.
Right.
And
it's been put out there just to keep life on Earth.
Yeah, and it's got some kind of terraform on top of it and all this. I mean, there's a lot of evidence for that. There's a lot of evidence to supporting the fact. If you just take the sizes, right? There's no way it would be that perfectly sized.
Right.
To go up against like the sun and for eclipses and things and the ding. I mean, it would take like a god creating it to. I mean, oh well.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, that is possibility A.
Yes. But could you imagine being in that meeting? Like, what should we make it look like on the outside so they don't know that it's artificial?
Let's make it look like it got hit with a bunch of shit. Like Johnson's face. Hey. Like Johnson's girlfriend's face. Sorry, Johnson. Hey. Oh.
When I was a kid, I watched a lot of Scooby-Doo, and I really thought that holographic projectors were going to be a lot more common in life. I mean, because it seemed like everybody had one.
Scooby-Doo screws with them. Do you know what I thought?
What's that?
I thought dry ice in an afternoon could create a whole haunted village. Right. I know the first time that I came across dry ice working at a grocery store years and years ago, I was so disappointed.
Right.
Until I found out you could put dry ice in a Coke bottle and ruin people's days. You ever done that?
I have not ever done that.
Well, these days they would make you a terrorist for that because it does some cool stuff.
Will it explode?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Empty bottle, little chunk of dry ice, throw that sumbitch, give it a second. It's great for cats.
Right.
I mean, cats like doing it.
Right.
Not because that'd be cruel and
that
unusual.
That would be horrible.
Terrible. It'd be like putting a cucumber behind one. That would be really, really, really bad. So, yeah. Anyway, so we had Mother's Day last week. That was good, right?
I had a great Mother's Day. We went to the movie theater.
We did. We risked life and limb. And
we did our marathon, our 2 movies in a row.
Ate a bunch of popcorn.
Yes.
That was fun.
And candy. I ate cotton candy.
I ate popcorn and candy, and that's a real rarity for me. So, I mean, I enjoyed the hell out of it. Man, that popcorn was good, man. But we went, I love Guy Ritchie films. Yes. And, well, we love Guy Ritchie films. So we went to go see the new Jason Statham movie, Wrath of Man.
Yes.
That was great. It was like everything that you expected it to be. But that's what we expected it to be.
Right, exactly.
You don't go to those like hoping he picks up a couple of commandments or something. It's parts of Red Sea. I mean, it was really good. And we went to go see Our Mutual Love.
Yes.
So when we get our little cult, we're going to have Jeffrey Dean Morgan join it. But we went to go see The Unholy. And listen, The Unholy. Sorry, Gene Simmons is in my head. That was a great movie.
It was fantastic.
It really, 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 really was good because you go see horror movies sometimes, and this they suck.
Mm-hmm.
And this one wasn't like that. I really dug the story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wasn't the most intricate thing ever, but I thought it was really good, man. And I thought he did a great job, playing the part he was playing. It was really cool, I thought.
Yes, I really enjoyed it. I liked it.
So I give it, 2 zombies up. I don't know how to rank that.
I'm not sure.
I would go see The Unholy before I'd go see the other film, though. If I had to do them, if I had to go see them again.
Right, and just do one?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was a really good film. Get out to the movies, folks. Bring the theaters back to life.
Yes.
Because we all need to keep those things going. Mm-hmm. As much as I like stuff coming on HBO Max.
Right.
There's just something about trying to watch it with a bunch of kids all over your head that makes it's a little different than the theater.
Right. And the popcorn's much better at the theater.
Yeah, the theater's like my inner sanctum.
Well, and we have one close to us. It's a smaller one.
Mm-hmm.
It's like our local theater, and the prices are not that extravagant. And they show all the new movies, and generally when we go, it's almost an empty theater.
Yeah.
Even before the pandemic, it was kind of like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's,
we go late at night.
it is what it is, but I mean, it's cool going. I love the movies.
Yes, me too.
And they're always haunted too.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can always feel. We've investigated so many of those damn things.
I know.
There's something always haunted about it. But hey, I got something creepy for you before I even get to my list, man.
Okay.
I was gonna start giving little creepy facts every now and then.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I call it my Historia Real de Miedo.
Okay, what does that mean?
Oh, that's a scary true story.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Scary true story.
It'd been a lot cooler if you didn't ask me that and somebody had to look it up. So it's all right.
Maybe they paused to look it up before they got to that part.
Maybe they did. Maybe they were like, Jesus Christ, I have to know that now. Just keep it on the. We drop so many bombs on them. They just keep their finger on the pause, and then they let it go, and they're like, "Damn it, he told us right after." It's literally a half a second, Karen. Could you not wait? So I want to talk about a copper man.
Okay.
I'm not talking about some redheaded guy from, down the street. I'm talking
Right.
about the original copper man. Well, I don't know if he's the original copper man, but he's an old copper man.
Okay.
It's a weird story.
Okay. Cool.
And it's cool.
I don't know this story, so I'm excited.
Well, it's like this old, crazy tale, this haunted tale, but dude, it's totally an alien tale.
Okay.
And basically, you can't find crapola on it. I mean, you can't find crap dappity zippity doo-dah about this. But I heard it somewhere and I had to look it up. And the only thing I could find was on britishparanormal.co.uk.
Okay.
And on there, I found the following. And the cool thing about this was written exactly 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
To the day.
That's very strange.
So I'm thinking somebody must have been thinking about this at the same time. Isn't that weird, though?
That is weird.
The stuff like that always gets me. First reported in the late 18th century, sightings reoccurred into the start of the 19th century. British Paranormal first became aware of this unusual entity in 2015 when a Portsmouth-based reader contacted them about some details and local archival research that he had undertaken. He had initially been looking for information relating to the parish of Farlington, now part of Portsmouth. But in doing so, he turned up some very curious information indeed. Following inquiries, a number of primary resources were made available to the researcher through various channels, including a diary belonging to Henry Albert Brand, a bookbinder, who had lived and worked in Hampshire in the late 18th century. The diary kept record of Brand's various trips in and around the country, as well as chronicling personal history and local stories of interest. On September 6, 1798, an entry in the diary made reference to a tale that left the researcher dumbfounded. A human with metal skin had apparently been sighted by a local vicar whilst walking the county near Farrington. The vicar claimed that the man was no more than 4 feet in height, with a sturdy muscular body, and a large, bulky head. His eyes were described as being like brightly polished shillings, glistening in the midday sun. He had no mouth, no nose, and no ears, and he wore no clothes. Brand provided a lengthy and highly detailed account of the panic this creature caused in the surrounding places that he went. He noted that in a later entry that the creature had been spotted again near the now reclaimed land of Tipner Lake. A young farmer's maid had been harvesting wild fennel when she beheld a man of metal flesh arise from the waters of the bay and walk several meters, before retracing his footsteps and submerging beneath the still surface again. Initially, the researcher who was inspecting Brandt's private diary said his feelings of confusion by reckoning that the ancient bookbinder was insane in the script. However, this comfort was soon swept aside when a second source emerged that proved that Brandt had been anything but a lunatic. A letter written by Dr. Jeffrey Bramwell attested to another panic in Portsmouth that focused on a flying metal man. In 1801, a group of a dozen or so Portsmouth townfolk gathered at an open-air location near Portsmouth City Center to exchange goods and produce. No sooner than the wares had been carefully laid out, a local candle maker let out a shriek of fear so loud it made a hat maker fall giddy to the ground. The shriek was in response to a grim ghoul, a terrible countenance, replete with the skin of copper. The bizarre creature emerged from a nearby corpse, then launched itself like a golden bird into the sky, where it soon disappeared out of sight. So what was behind the Copperman sightings of Portsmouth more than 200 years ago? In the absence of any simple explanation, the thoughts surely turned to the possibility of an extraterrestrial being. Basically they go on to a few things that maybe could have been, but there were several encounters with this, what they call the Copperman. But I thought it was very strange that the 4 feet in height, the glistening eyes.
Yes.
You don't hear a bunch of aliens living in the water like that, but what if it was like a crashed extraterrestrial, had his craft under the water?
It sounds a lot like a really short C-3PO,
yeah.
like an android.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's strange. The one didn't have any clothes on, though, so.
Right. Well, it wouldn't look like they had clothes. If that was some sort of spacesuit,
yeah,
they wouldn't have clothes on the outside of it.
I don't know.
But the source is there. I mean, a vicar.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's not going to lie.
Well, yeah, no. And the doctor that came on and said something. I mean, yeah,
right.
it's some interesting stuff. It really is. And to go on as long as it did as well.
Right.
I thought was pretty interesting. Either way, I mean, you're either looking at some kind of being of some, it's either paranormal or extraterrestrial. So.
Right.
Anyway, either way, interesting stuff. Cool little story.
One that's not well known either, because I had not heard that one.
Yeah, that one's it's not really talked about. It's not a Rendlesham of the paranormal.
Right,
there.
It's not the Green Children of Woolpit story.
God, dang it. I'm so sick of the Green Children of Woolpit. You hear it so much. It's always on everybody's list, right?
It is.
That's insane. But something cool you guys can do is go to patreon.com/paranormal sideshow, become a patron, become a sideshow off, and you'll have a bunch of weird friends there instantly that connect with you. And the cool thing about it is you're going to get to see a lunar wave. and even if you look at yourself, the chances of it happening when we're looking is a hell of a lot better. Just because they know. And they know to such a degree that I firmly believe weather manipulation has been involved with. They're like, sir, he's got it. Damn it. You were supposed to do something with it. Well, I delayed it. But we do finally have it. So
yes.
That's going to be cool. Patreon.com/paranormal sideshow. We appreciate your support so much. But if you want to support in small little gentle ways, Facebook.com/paranormal sideshow. Hit the like button. Make your friends hit it. It makes us happy. @Sideshow97 on Twitter. And John and Stacey Edwards on the Instagram. And one really great one is go to YouTube. Because on YouTube, you get all kinds of crap when we put it up streaming. And the show's on there. And, of course, it's just Paranormal Sideshow on there. So all those fun things, including the soon-to-be revamped, released, renewed, reinvigorated ParanormalSideshow.com. And that one's going to have some more like daily news and cool crap like that. And it looks really pretty. I have to say that.
Yes.
I'm under contractual obligation to talk about how pretty it is. But there's all kinds of cool stuff being worked on daily by that. So are you ready for something cool?
I am always ready for something cool.
Well, I'm glad you're ready. Because we're going to talk about 13 impossible mysteries of the ancient world.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
Well, I got to get a cool number on there. I'm going to start out with number 13.
Okay.
And that is my Costa Rican spheres.
Oh, those things are weird.
They are weird.
Mm-hmm.
There ain't nothing worse than a bunch of stone balls. Over 300 stone spheres have been found in Costa Rica. They're not geodes. These are spears sculpted from rock. They call them las bolas, which means the balls or the discus spears, because they are believed to have been created by a pre-Columbian indigenous Diquis people. Sculpted rock spears have been found in other countries as well, but some have been found in Europe, India, Chile, Mexico, and the United States. But Costa Rica's granite spears are unique. They are nearly perfect spears with very smooth sides. Most of these mysterious stone spears are sculpted of gabbro. Some spears have been found that are made of sedimentary calcium carbonate limestone with shell fossils. Some others are made of sedimentary sandstone. The spears are as small as 4 inches to as large as 8 feet.
Wow.
They weigh up to 15 tons, and most are perfectly formed. Some have sophisticated petroglyphs in high and low relief. They are often grouped. 20 or more stone spears are found aligned in geometric patterns, triangles, rectangles, and straight lines. And the patterns often point to the Earth's magnetic north. The spears are found in different places. Some are found in the Diquis River Delta. Others are in the south near Palmar Sur, Buenos Aires. Some stone spears are also in the north of the province of Guanacaste and the Central Valley.
So strange.
Yeah, no, they are strange. They're crazy and beautiful.
What I find so strange about them is I don't understand what practical purpose they would have. I mean,
well, no, I mean, and there was no written language
mm-hmm.
by these people either. But you know, they were skilled sculptors. We do know that.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems they were made by hammering boulders with rocks and polishing them with sand until they were smooth spears.
Mm-hmm.
You know, could it be done? Yeah, it's just more about how were they moved and,
right.
You know.
And why.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I understand that they're marking geometric shapes and magnetic north and stuff, but you don't need a sphere to do that.
No, you don't.
So there's a purpose, a reason behind. And how do they get them all so perfect?
I still think giants were playing some kind of ball.
You think it's a game?
Or some kind of battle.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, you know, maybe it wasn't always stone.
Oh, perhaps.
I mean, who knows? It's
true.
Interesting stuff, though.
Mm-hmm.
But it's number 13. Going up to number 12,
mm-hmm.
we have another one of my favorites, as all these are, because trust me, there's a lot more than 13 of these things.
Yes, there are.
But number 12 is the Iron Pillar of Delhi.
Ooh, that sounds intriguing.
It's in India. The pillar is at least 1,500 years old, but could be older. It remains rust-free and is of an astounding purity. It is 99.72% iron, according to a Professor A.P. Gupta, head of the Department of Applied Sciences and Humanities at the Institute of Technology and Management in India. In modern times, wrought iron has been made with a purity of 99.8%, but it contains manganese and sulfur, 2 ingredients absent in the pillar. It was made at least 400 years before the largest known foundry of the world could have produced it.
Wow.
And it was written in a study of the craftsmen of ancient and medieval civilizations to show the influence of their training on our present-day method of trade education. Dude, could you name your book anything longer? That's by John Rowlett. It's very, very cool. You need to look it up if you have never seen it. There is a lot of speculation that perhaps it's much older than 400 years. But there's speculation that India was made by someone else anyway,
right.
And they kind of moved in, just like with the pyramids and Egypt stuff. You know, there's a lot of speculation because of the way that so much of the most ancient things we have are glorious. They're just things that were not done by the later civilizations.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that can't really put a date on, they're just unbelievable. And then you have ones that are almost like copycat stuff.
Right.
That's nowhere near as good. And that's all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can go all over the world, literally, and you find these incredible stones and this craftsmanship, and you find some like pebbles on top. And it's like, they did this in the 1600s, you know? It's like, shouldn't it have got better?
Right.
Should
right.
it not have got better? Is that not our clue
Mm-hmm.
that some pre-diluvian technology was going on? And
Right.
it's just nuts to me, man. It really is. That one's really cool though, just from the purity.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's crazy that they were able to do that, and it's hundreds. It's not even just like 20 years before time. It's hundreds of years before anyone knew they could do it. That doesn't mean that they couldn't do it, but we don't understand how they knew how.
Right. I mean, that's if they're being honest, and they're always lying.
Right.
So they're giving us 400 years. I mean, listen, science that has anything to do with the ancient world is like asking a guy how many beers he's had when you pull him over.
Right.
You know?
Right.
No, I only had 2 beers. You know? So you
when he had 12.
Yeah, you instantly know the guy's had 8 to 10. So if I hear 400 years, them son of bitches are thinking 1,200 years.
Right, right. Well, I think it's interesting too. Didn't you say that the level of purity, they were able to achieve it without whatever it is we use to get that level of purity? Like, so clearly we don't even know how they did it with the recipe.
Right. Yeah. No, we don't.
So that's crazy.
We don't. We have no clue.
That's insane.
And something on it keeps it from rusting.
Yeah. I totally forgot you said that. It didn't even rust.
That's like the craziest part to all of it.
That's insane.
Is that it doesn't rust. I mean, it's very crazy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Number 11 is a very strange cat.
Okay.
And I mean, as if the Costa Rican spears at 13 weren't weird enough, or the Pillar of Delhi wasn't weird, at number 12. This one, this one's crazy, Stacy.
Okay.
I love it though. It's from Kosovo.
Okay.
A little place like Kosovo.
I don't think that's how that goes.
Oh.
I think that's Kokomo.
Good
try, though.
to get away from it all. That ain't no joke, is it?
Nope.
So there's something interesting that happened in Kosovo.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in the area of Shara, Planina. I figured they do the Ricola thing up there.
Oh, probably.
It's a mountain ridge.
Mm-hmm.
So Shara, Planina, a photographer and researcher. He does double duty.
Yes.
Ismet Smiley. Well, good old Ismet, he discovered a mysterious artifact, and it just doesn't happen to fit into any of our human civilization plans.
Oh,
It's the kind of stuff that makes the scientists go, dag-nabbit.
Nothing to see here. Look away.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, it's a stone of an unusual shape. I mean, as long as it does the job, right? In which an electromagnetic coil is built.
Huh.
That's right. And the coil of copper wires is not simply inserted into the cut groove. I just seen that meme. One does not simply insert into cut groove, but it makes up a hole with the stone, as if the stone was melted and then gave the necessary shape to create a transformer.
Wow.
More than meets the eye. Not that kind of transformer, but Ismet gave a sample of the stone for nails, and it was found that this stone is not less than 20,000 years old.
Wow.
In addition to the stone, the coil with copper wires, the artifact contains an insulator whose composition differs from the surrounding material in having convex bands in a circle resembling a carving, and it is also fused into a stone. Like the coil itself, and on the other side of the stone, there are 4 symmetrically located openings,
wow.
which most likely represent holes for wires and collect energy received from the transformer.
Okay, that's just weird.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not like an oddly, like something just happened to fall and get made into rock. That was something that was created.
No, that's not. I slipped and fell on his.
Yeah.
The mysterious artifact from the depth of centuries can shed light on the origins of human civilizations. We don't know about the origins, but it definitely was another one. Of course, it's officially explored by scientists who will confirm the fact that it is an electrical transformer manufactured 20,000 years ago. Yeah, they're not going to do that. Ismet says that he plans to give the artifact to scientists, and there's a high probability that we will never see the artifact again.
Never, ever.
Nor will we read the results of these studies. Perhaps the person himself who made this sensational discovery suddenly falls ill or begins to cross the road to the red light. Mount Shara Planina is one of the largest mountain ranges located in the Balkan Peninsula. Good old place, the Balkan Peninsula.
Wow.
Its length is more than 200 kilometers, and this ridge, in a certain sense, unites Macedonia, Kosovo, and Albania. Really old school, cool place there.
Somewhat remote.
Well, I mean,
area.
you got the Albania there. I mean, there's so many discoveries around there.
Right.
As it passes all these territories at once, the name of the mountain is translated from Albanian as Motley Mountain, and they go up there and they're like, "Where's the one I'm calling? So, I mean, dude, you've seen it.
I have, and if you haven't seen a picture of this, look it up. It is so weird.
Yeah, Kosovo Transformer.
Mm-hmm.
Don't put more than meets the eye or anything, but or don't look the Beach Boys up or anything like that. Listen, this is for real. You know, we had the Baghdad Battery thing that was found.
Mm-hmm.
That was interesting. That could have been on the list, but it wasn't because there was the Kosovo Transformer.
That's right.
The Kosovo Transformer, I mean, there's just no way this is... there's no way. The way this was done,
mm-hmm.
it's just ridiculous. And this guy... He's like, look, I don't want to give it to anybody. Like, he's went back and forth on it. I've heard he wasn't going to let anybody have it.
Right.
And, you know, just because he feels like he's never going to get it back. And then...
Which is probably true.
Right. And then other times
mm-hmm.
he's like, well, I'll let people do it, you know, and take it. But I'm not ever going to hear anything back on it, which you would love to think that that's not true. But how many times?
Right.
You know, Smith and his friend Sonian, you know, they have a problem with things that put things out of place.
Mm-hmm.
The
mm-hmm.
oop art.
Borrowing it and then losing it mysteriously.
They've got like the oop art warriors. So
going back to India way for this, and the Kylash Temple.
Okay.
In the Lunar Caves. And this is in Maharashtra. Great attraction to tourists from the world over. They say it was built by Rashtrakuta,
mm-hmm.
Dynasty of King Krishna I in 760 AD. But I don't know. I'm not buying it.
Right.
Again, it's not disrespect. It's just because you'll find out why. Okay. And this is something I do implore everyone to look up if you don't know about it. The temple's mysterious in several ways. Okay. One of the ways, and you got to see how magnificent this damn thing is. But one of the ways, it's carved out of a single rock. The temple is in the rock-cut caves of Allura, carved out of a single rock. According to experts, the artist carved out a singular stone at a point and hollowed it out into the Kylash Temple. It is the world's oldest single rock carving, and this is one of the crazy parts. It's carved from top to bottom. One of the most unimaginable and mysterious facts of the Kylash Temple is its top to bottom carving. Even today, it's simply impossible to carve such a perfect construction from top to bottom so elaborately, using just chisels and hammers.
Yeah.
The temple has the world's largest cantilevered rock ceiling, which just seems impossible feat for a temple constructed thousands of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
400 tons of rock was scooped out. And that's what archaeologists believe. And that's what had to be scooped out of it. Even today, it's impossible to accomplish such a task using the largest ever available 10-ton JCB machines. And it's just very intriguing that such a thing could have been done. They say it took 150 years to complete. More than 7,000 laborers worked for around 150 years to carve the Kylash Temple. It simply indicates that the amount of work put in every labor is mammoth and unsurpassable even today.
I find it really hard to believe that many people worked on one project and nobody made a mistake.
Right. No mistakes.
Is that the one that has like just ridiculous amount of carvings on the outside?
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Unique drilling of holes,
mm-hmm.
and its unique way in which the sculptors drilled the holes is one of the biggest mysteries for everyone. The holes indicate that someone very small drilled it as a human being cannot enter and do the drilling. The numerous shafts, narrow lanes, and holes make you wonder whether they use something like computers to do the job. I mean, seriously, it's crazy angles.
That's insane.
But they say laborers work 16 hours a day and all this stuff. I mean, people even wonder if it's from outer space because it's impossible to build it.
Yeah.
That's the whole damn thing about it. It's impossible to build it.
Carved from top to bottom.
I mean, with the highest ceilings. I mean, there's no way with chisels and the tools they had. It's just, you got to go look, people. If you don't know what it is, go look at Kylash Temple. Okay? Just go look it up. It's crapping nuts. It just is. For lack of a better word.
Right.
All right, coming in at number 9 on our 13 Impossible Mysteries of the Ancient World. And again, we could have had 36. We could have had 92. You know, any little cute number that we wanted to have.
Right.
We could probably have 665. I mean, it wouldn't have mattered. There's that many crazy things out there that point to the fact that, well, we've done this a few times. And there's a few little oop arts out there, and there's some oop structures. I don't know what you might call those. But this next one. So we talk about, you know how upset I get when I turn on a UFO show and it's about Roswell? Where I turn on a Bigfoot and it's, you know, something that we've seen a million times, or you know what I'm saying.
Right.
I want to try to avoid that, but some of it is unavoidable.
Right.
So there are a couple things on the list that you just kind of have to talk about. And I want to talk about these things that we do talk about quite often in maybe a different way.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk about the same things with an Italian accent.
This should be interesting.
I'm just playing.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk about Göbekli Tepe right now.
Okay.
Now, we've talked about Göbekli many times.
Yes.
Of course, it's in our Paradise Turkey place there that we want to just...
Right, and it's come up in the news
Yeah,
recently.
absolutely. Absolutely. There's so much about Göbekli that is just crazy. Number one, it set some people's theories exactly correct, right? You look at Graham Hancock and his amazing, amazing books and body of work. When he started doing that in the mid-'90s, I mean, as far as putting a book out, there was nothing to support anything he talked about.
Right.
And people called him wackadoodle and all this. So now all this supporting things have come out and, you know, pushed timelines back. I mean, we just found out that right up the street, literally right up the street from us, is an ancient site that goes back pre-Clovis. And so, you know, that's insane.
Yeah.
So goes back, you know, more than that magical 10,000 year line. You know, it goes back to the people that came before the Clovis people, which, you know, beforehand, they begrudgingly said, okay, there was Clovis people.
Right.
You know, but now they're having to be like, okay, crap. So there's pre-Clovis people.
Right.
And guess what? There's pre. I know it really, I want to say effed with you, but we're nice on this show. It really effed with Stacy, the fact that there was freaking elephants walking right through our yard here.
It's just crazy because you just don't think that that's something that was around here. And, you know, even you driving around just randomly found mounds.
Yes.
Like undiscovered
I take
mounds.
pictures and send her.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I have a little advantage, but it's still yet. I'm like, hey, do you think this is a mound? It's got like, I mean,
it's like a mound.
Yeah, it's a mound. Well, I mean, and think about the pyramid. Remember, we talked about that. That's a pyramid.
Right.
It just
right.
is. But there's stuff everywhere. And you think that, oh, I live in the boring old United States. There's nothing here. This place was only discovered 500 years ago. I mean, yeah. So it's as old as everything else. And guess what? There was people here. There just was. Some of it was ocean, but, you know, so we live right down the street from an old, big, huge, you know, place of salt. So because there was like a not a very tall ocean. It's kind of like you have with the Dead Sea now.
More like a great big salt lake.
Yeah. Well,
maybe small ocean.
Yeah, a small ocean.
Yeah.
And when there's a high concentration of the salt and then it goes into sediment, so you have it was perfect for preserving things. And so a lot of crazy stuff there. We'll talk about that in an upcoming episode in depth. But so with Göbekli Tepe, and, you know, going back to before the last cataclysm, basically, or just after, and you go to that like 12,000 year mark somewhere around there. And, you know, we think we've got it exact, but we don't exactly have anything except a lot of questions. And it was pretty magnificent because we were supposed to be hunter-gatherers at the time. And obviously we were, you know,
builders.
We were building. We were probably settling, but there were still no signs of settlement.
Right.
Well, hence we've got Carahan Tepe. So Carahan Tepe, they think may be older than Göbekli Tepe. And researchers in Turkey they're just starting the excavation on the ancient site of Carahan Tepe. They believe it's much older than Göbekli, the famous 0 point of world history. And until now, if you were to ask any professor of history or even a self-respecting armchair archaeologist like myself to name the oldest monument ever discovered, they would all say Göbekli Tepe. But now that answer could possibly be Carahan Tepe. And this is creating a lot of excitement in the archaeological circles, obviously. And they've been working on the Carahan Tepe site, which is often called the sister site of Göbekli, since 1997. This site is located roughly 35 kilometers east of the 12,000-year-old Göbekli Tepe site. And over the years, archaeologists have made a series of amazing discoveries at Carahan Tepe site, in particular tons of buried T-shaped obelisks, just like at Göbekli. And, right now it's just the tops of them. There's actually a dude that we watch on YouTube who went to the site, and it's a farm. And there's people that live there, and they're nice as can be. And he went there and just ate grub with them because that happens like the old days.
Right.
And then like the son took them up there, and they're it's all this raw footage.
Right.
It's awesome because it's not tampered with. It's not produced. And you get to see, he's like, yeah, we grew up playing with this stuff. We found some crazy crap here, like lion bones and all this stuff that shouldn't have been here. So I've seen the place, and yeah, they're just starting to dig it out. I mean,
I think they have enough dug out where they can tell that it's super similar to Göbekli.
Oh, yeah.
Like you can tell that it's the same construction.
Well, the very interesting thing is they found settlement there. Like they found things that they worshipped. They found, like you found the charcoal and all this stuff.
Right.
There's signs that maybe they were settlement here. Right. And they went and took the stuff to Göbekli.
And we're building it over there for something else.
Which is insanity.
Yes, I agree.
It really is. Especially since, again, we were supposed to be hunter-gatherers. But there's 12 spots estimated to be in the same period of Göbekli Tepe, all known in the region. One of those is Carahan Tepe.
Wow.
And an intensive and rapid excavation program is continuing in Carahan Tepe, which to date has yielded 250 obelisks featuring animal figures. The planned excavations will prove the settlement at Carahan Tepe will be much older than the 12,000-year-old Göbekli Tepe. And it'll probably make the 0 point of world history for right now reset. I think I would just hold off on 0 pointing things, just for now.
Yeah, just leave it open, just open-ended.
Okay, let's make it like a 5-pointer.
So am I correct? Did you say that they think that there are 12 separate sites like these, and they've only found these 2?
Right.
That's crazy. Could you imagine there being 10 other humongous tepes?
Yeah, and buried on purpose.
Right.
This was also buried on purpose.
Yes.
With a little bit more...
Wasn't it more deliberate? A little bit more deliberately buried. Yes.
Yeah, this one was a little bit sludgier. And, like they really didn't want you to find this one, I don't think. The other one was like, please find this.
Right.
And it's strange. What's it telling us? Why was it done? Why would you go through all that effort in a time period when you didn't know how your next meal's coming and all this stuff? And then you've got the strange, carvings of the mysterious figure with the bag, right? Then you have that all over the world.
Right.
So was there something bringing a bag and have DNA in it or have secrets in it? What?
Right. And then where did they go? Like once they buried these to hide them.
Right.
What happened? Where did they go? Did they disappear? Was like one guy left and he had to he had to bury it all before he was gone? I don't know.
It would have been too labor intensive.
Yeah.
I mean, just the whole thing would have been labor intensive. I don't know how to answer that question because
I don't know.
I think that's part of the mystery. I mean, that's a long time ago.
Yes.
And it just really gives over to the fact of everything we're talking about here. During the last, mass extinction event, however you want to call it, around 12,000 years ago, 12,800 years ago, there was actually 2 in a row. And, so you had the one mass extinction event, and then we were going through some crap, and then another one happened.
Right.
With the mini ice age and all that. Just there was a lot of crap.
Do you think, in your estimation, if they were able to uncover the whole thing, that's not going to happen, but if they could uncover the whole thing, do you think even uncovering the whole thing, we would understand what it was for? Do you think we would get our answers?
I believe that if we didn't have people kind of blocking that from us,
trying to fit it in a box,
that we may already know more. I think there's ways that we can know more. It depends on what you're looking for when you're there. And a lot of these people, well, no, not all of these people are sponsored by some university. Their job comes from, funding of, hey, I need you to find the answers for this. And especially when you're looking at things like the country of Turkey itself. Okay. So that falls under some very strict religious guidelines.
Right.
And, they don't want to shake that tree too much. I mean, you don't necessarily want to go in there and be like, well, your religion's a sham.
Right. Right.
You're basically just as well off to be praying to that candle.
Yeah. Well, you have to be really careful with stuff like that because you can't go into it with having a little box in mind, trying to fit it into this little box. But you also can't go in there, thinking I'm going to go in there and find alien. Like you can't go in there looking for the alien connection either.
Right. No preconceived notions. And I don't even look at the alien connection at all. Okay. None of this. I think that we were super evolved.
Right.
And I think that if you look at the age of the Earth and the fact that we find human-esque remains going so far back, and the fact of how quickly nature takes things back. Now, listen, I know of houses that are 100 years old that have been completely not messed with, and nature makes them disappear.
Right.
If they're not screwed with, especially here in the mountains. So you'll see stuff on the side of the road sometimes, and there might be just a little bit of a structure left. And we're talking after, 60, 70 years?
Yeah.
So just imagine thousands of years.
That kudzu really gets in there.
Well, I mean, after thousands of years, they're gone.
Oh, yeah. No trace.
And that's the whole deal we're talking. I mean, if we're talking 10, 12,000 years, good Lord. And then going back to when the high technology was. Right. Say you're going back 200,000 years. I mean, there's no telling what was here, what's covered up.
Right.
So that's what really, it really gets me excited.
Yes.
Because I want to find out these answers. I know the answers are here. I do. And this was a mission of mine that started like around 2012. And I remember the night specifically. I remember when it all came to me and that it was going to be happening big time and we were going to be finding out a lot. And this was not even in my purview then. And ever since then, it really became this thing that whenever I seen something on it, I jumped in it and but now it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It seems like we're finding things more and more, and it's always setting the date back further.
Well, you just can't. I mean, it's things you just can't ignore anymore because now our technology is so far up that we're proving that these things are older than we thought. Look at LiDAR. It's not a guessing game anymore.
I mean, LiDAR now, you can go to a place like Ireland. I was watching, I showed you, just a normal archaeology thing, which I watched those too. But they were using LiDAR and were able to pinpoint exactly. That's why it doesn't take as long as it used to.
Like foundations and stuff, yeah.
If you had a feeling about a site.
Right.
First, you have to have a feeling because a farmer was plowing a field and found like an ancient piece of pottery or something.
Yeah, or a weird rock or something.
Right. So then they report that, and then you settle on whether or not you can dig there, and then you have to go in and hope that you're digging in the right spot because you're not just going to dig out acres and acres and acres.
Right.
And you really hope there's something else there that promotes this. But with LiDAR, you now get a pretty accurate, picture. And it doesn't matter about the canopy,
right,
as we've seen in the Amazon. And it takes away a lot, so you can dig right where the structure is.
Right.
So just imagine how many years that takes off of it.
Oh, yeah, because now you know exactly where to dig. It's not a guessing game.
And something interesting to me, this was like highly scholared individuals that these were, there was like some German archaeologists that were going to Ireland to dig the one I was watching. They were talking and they were like, look, we're very careful of what we dig. And, we don't dig up every little thing because we want to make sure that there's things here preserved for when the technology is even better than it is now.
Right, right.
And they're trying to be very careful with things because they don't want to destroy them. They don't want to screw it up. So I think that's really cool, like the patience they have. We're going to have, because the technology in 10 years will probably...
I guess it's probably a good thing we're not archaeologists then.
Oh, God. I'd be like...
No patience here.
I'd be like, well, I stuck the dynamite in the side of it. And you know what? We lost one T-pillar. But damn it, we have the other ones, don't we? Don't we?
Yeah, and the one you blew up is the key to the rest of them, probably.
Yeah, it was Rosetta Stone 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's and we need to find those too.
Right.
It's funny, even with hieroglyphs,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The amount we still don't know.
Right.
It's nuts that there's so many languages out there that you think we might know because you just assume that we know everything.
Right.
And we don't know jack crappity.
Right.
So, and that's just only thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about the ones from, again, you go back that far, we can't tell you what was there, even some of the around the times of ancient Greece and stuff. I mean, there's huge surprises. So anyway, yeah, let's go on to our next one.
Okay.
Coming in at number 8. Now this one is another one of those that I thought about not even putting on here just because everybody talks about it. Any kind of sci-fi movie, if you're going to do some kind of documentary or something, you're going to have a picture of it. Anytime you want to start a secret organization, you're going to put the symbol there. But now they're flying around, so I kind of have to talk about it.
Okay.
We're going to Egypt, babe. Your favorite place.
Okay.
The ancient pyramids of Giza.
Ah.
And of course, they have wowed mankind for centuries. They tower over the desert landscape with the Great Pyramid standing a whopping 139 meters. For, you people there in the States, that's 455 feet high. And for many years, Great Pyramid believed to have been built by Khufu
Right.
around 2550 BC. Just doesn't sound old, does it?
No.
It was the largest structure on Earth. The second pyramid is believed to have been built by Khufu's son, Khafre, circa 2520. It also includes the Sphinx, a limestone monument with the body of a lion ordained with the head of a pharaoh. And yes, I'm kind of putting these out there, and I sound very condescending. I realize that. That's because I don't believe a bit of it.
Right.
Many scientists have concluded that it only took 20,000 workers a period of 20 years to build the Great Pyramid. And that's pretty astounding when history tells us they only used wooden implements with ropes and pulleys.
Mm-hmm.
With all the detail and precise alignments, it's hard to believe that such magnificence could be gained in a 20-year period by so few workers and limited tools and resources. And, the breakdown to that is, I'll let you work that one out or look that one up. It's pretty unbelievable. In fact, it's impossible. Just saying it's impossible. But I wanted to pull out a few of the facts about the Great Pyramid that makes me believe that it's much older than what we're told.
Right.
Much older.
Okay.
I believe that, they kind of moved into that house.
Right. Khufu was like, oh, look at that. Write it down. I built that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I'm the pharaoh. Who's going to judge?
Yeah. But, sir,
What? What is it, Johnson?
nothing, sir.
The pyramid's massive size alone creates a very persuasive argument that there's some unknown technology involved in the construction. The Great Pyramid, the largest of the three and the largest in the world, consists of 2.3 million stone blocks that weigh 2.5 to 15 tons apiece. According to archaeologists, they were quarried from a nearby source at such a marvelous weight. I wonder how the workers moved those blocks. It's theorized that large groups of workers would have pushed these massive blocks over wooden ramps, like I was saying.
Yeah. Rolling logs,
Yeah, this seems very unlikely. There does not appear to have been any material, much less any type of wood, that could have withstood the weight of these massive stones.
Seems like the sand would make that much easier too.
And just to let you know, I said I'd let you do them, but if you do the math for the time frame on the Great Pyramid's construction, it comes out to workers setting a block every 2.5 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, those big blocks.
I'm not sure that we can do hardly anything in 2.5 minutes.
Well, we can do something in 2.5 minutes. So there's also new discoveries are regularly made beneath the Giza pyramids, especially here recently, guys. Egypt every couple of minutes is putting out something crazy. There's a tunnel system found below that truly allude to an advanced civilization. Carved from limestone bedrock, these labyrinths protrude deep beneath the desert and have much left to be discovered. The passageways are always revealing new truths and hidden chambers. A recent find by my favorite archaeologist, Brian Forster, only strengthens the notion that ancient advanced technologies once existed long before our time. Find him on YouTube. It's a great watch. Does live stuff, does stuff, just shows you everything. Also does the ancient Incan tours, which I'm going to be part of. Just letting you guys know, because it's something that's got to be done. But not just the tunnels are the crazy part. The alignment with the North Pole. There's a lot of theories that circulate concerning the alignment of the pyramid, specifically Great Pyramid. They all agree they cannot conclusively say how the ancient Egyptians were able to construct the Great Pyramid with such accuracy to the cardinal directions. I mean, the measurements themselves are just astounding. And the mortar of unknown origin, too. Samples of the mortar used for the construction of the pyramids have been analyzed many times. And though the composition has been determined, our modern technology is yet to be able to recreate it.
Right.
The mortar is mostly made of processed gypsum, and it wasn't used like the cement we use for our modern day bricks. Ancient Egyptian mortar was used to support the joints of the huge stones as they were placed. An estimated 500,000 tons of mortar were used during the construction of the Great Pyramid. Astoundingly, this gypsum mortar is stronger than the stones themselves and has remained in place for thousands of years. There's been much speculation regarding the shafts as well inside the Great Pyramid. Of these 3 pyramids in Giza, the Great Pyramid is the only pyramid to be built with the shafts. The angles of the shafts seem to correspond with celestial bodies. This would still beg the question, what unknown technology were they using to get such precise alignments, and why go through all the trouble? That's a big question.
Yes.
Just like the pyramid's alignment with the poles, there are no records found in Egyptian culture that reveal how they were able to get these alignments.
It's a coincidence.
There are also other theories that state these shafts were simply for ventilation, though most of them do not even break the surface of the pyramid to reach
Why would you need ventilation into a tomb?
outside air. Yeah. So my favorite part of these things that really screw with you about how they did it, and that would be, well, let's just call it the 20-ton door.
Okay.
That's right, the 20-ton door. At one time, some pyramids had huge swivel doors. These massive doors were undetectable because they fit so perfectly into the openings within the pyramids. Such a swivel door was discovered when the Great Pyramid was first being explored. One could open the door from the inside with minimal force due to how perfectly balanced it was.
Wow.
We are talking about an estimated 20 tons being moved with the ease of a single hand. How the Egyptians were able to cut and place these doors with such precision remains a mystery.
Right.
I mean, how were they even able to balance that enormous weight?
Right.
That's ridiculous. Casing stones. The Great Pyramid was once covered in white polished limestone, referred to as casing stones. This would have made the pyramid shine like a gem in the middle of the desert. The stones reflected the light of the sun like a mirror. The cuts made in this reflective stone were angled perfectly, so when the Great Pyramid was covered in them, it had a smooth, flat appearance. A great number of these stones were cut from a quarry across the Nile River and then transported across the water. After crossing the river, the stones were placed with an exactness that is difficult to parallel. A large earthquake in 1303 AD caused many of the casing stones to loosen. They were then used to build mosques and fortresses.
Instead of putting them back.
Today, all that remains is the inner core of the pyramid. What a sight the Great Pyramid must have been. I mean, really. Can you imagine? I mean, looking at it with a smooth surface that reflected the sun and had the mirror like appearance. I mean,
Right.
they never even show it like that when they show ancient movies.
There's a purpose for that. There has to be a purpose.
Oh, yeah.
Like a,
I mean, it's insane. It's what the purpose is.
right.
At first glance, the Great Pyramid of Giza looks like a four-sided pyramid. And I think most of you guys know this, but I'm going to go over it anyway because a lot of you might not.
Right.
But from the air, you can see that each side indents, making it actually an 8-sided structure. It is thought that perhaps these indentions were part of the design in order to keep the casing stones in place. Others have tried to claim that they were the result of erosion. Whatever the reason, the precision is amazing. The sides indent by 1 degree of a half degree. Even in today's world, that would be hard to facilitate. To deny the intent behind these indentions and credit the wind with their existence completely undermines the skill it took to make them.
Right. And see, that just makes it even that much more difficult of a construction.
Absolutely. It's said that Khufu had the Great Pyramid built. Though one wonders, when his sarcophagus was found and analyzed, it raised many questions. It was massive, weighing in an estimated 3.75 tons, and its dimensions make it too large to have been brought into the chamber. Therefore, it must have been placed while the pyramid was being constructed. The sarcophagus was made from a solid piece of granite, hollowed out from within. It also features holes that appear to have been made with some form of drill. There is much to question concerning, such a primitive time could produce such things. The effort it would have taken to hollow out and penetrate this granite raises eyebrows as to how on earth it was accomplished. I mean, there's no way you could have done that with a wooden pickaxe.
Right. Right.
Just nut stuff. And there's other things such as the heat anomalies they found. when observing it from the outside. There's so much, and we could go on and on and on. But hey, that's the Great Pyramid, folks. Yeah, I don't buy what has been sold. You know, so many things change over and over and over and over. I really think that this, again, much like the country of Turkey, I'm not so sure that Egypt wants to lose the credit,
right?
You know, for creating this,
right? And
as far as the Egyptians that we understand as Egyptians, and it's nothing. I mean, I'm not disrespecting anyone because they're a wondrous, awesome culture.
Right, and they've clearly created some amazing things.
Yeah, and it could have been the ancient Egyptian. You know, I mean, God knows. I'm just saying that it goes back further. I don't care who made it. Right. It's just the timeline for me.
Yeah, I just disagree with the age. Like you said, I disagree with the purpose. I think it had a more highly technological purpose than what they're saying. And I think that, you know, it's not a tune. Like, it's definitely more than what they are trying to say.
Some of the things I'm not talking about is even when you tour, you know, and you grease people's palms, going down into the underground, you know, like the labyrinth and all that stuff.
Right, the tunnels.
Yeah, that's not to be scoffed at. There is so much that even has been discovered down there. One of the ones on the list higher than the pyramid itself is something that's been discovered in the tunnels. That just amazes me to no end.
Right.
And that gets us to our next one. And our next one is number 7. And it's one of those things I was just talking about being discovered.
Okay.
It's the 100-ton boxes underground at the Serapeum in Egypt and in Saqqara. So one of the most intriguing sites in Egypt, which Egyptologists cannot logically explain, is the Serapeum, located in the massive ancient area known as Saqqara, literally buried and forgotten under the sands of time. Auguste Mariette discovered the Serapeum in 1850. The age of the tunnels within, as well as the boxes, remain a very controversial topic. That's putting it lightly.
Right.
There are 25 boxes inside the Serapeum labyrinth. Each box, on average, weighs 70 tons, with a lid of 30 tons. The lid in each case was cut from the same piece of stone as the box itself. The immensity of the boxes is just insane. Each one in general fitting inside a niche into which the box can barely fit. The idea that dynastic Egyptians created these as coffins for prize Apis bullflies, in the face of the fact that they did not have the technology to create them in the first place. The side fact is that Mariette and others used gunpowder to blow open some of these great examples of lost ancient high technology, presuming they would find valuable contents inside. However, each was found empty. No Apis bulls, no treasure, no nothing.
Right.
Their actual function is thus a mystery. Many of the boxes are made of very hard rose granite, supposedly from Aswan, which is about 500 miles away.
That's crazy.
And others appear to be of diorite and even harder stone than granite, and the quarries of which are an even greater distance away. How the dynastic Egyptians could have even quarried such huge blocks and transported them has not been adequately explained by Egyptologists either. The level of precision of some of the surfaces are clearly astounding. Engineer Chris Dunn measured accuracy as fine as deviations as little as 2/10,000ths of an inch from laser straight on some of the inside surfaces, which would have been impossible for dynastic Egyptian bronze tools. The crudely etched inscriptions found on some of the boxes were clearly not made by those who created the boxes in the first place, but most Egyptologists insist that both were done by the same hands. Thus, we can only conclude that the Serapeum boxes are older than the dynastic Egyptians, made by a culture with technology at least as advanced as that of the 21st century. It's freaking insane, and if you have never looked at them, okay, if you've never looked at them, go find a video right now. Go look on the internet and just look at pictures, because you'll never see such a thing. When you look at the boxes, and again, you look at these beautiful black shiny granite boxes, and they're tons and tons and tons and tons, and they stand taller than the human does, and you're like, what the hell? Like, how is that even done? Why was that done? How did they get it there? How did they create it? How did they create it with the precision they created it with? And then on the sides of them, it looks like somebody took a pocket knife,
right,
and barely carved the most nasty looking stuff. It almost looks like, I don't know, like somebody might have done it when they found, like, oh crap, let's put a couple of glyphs on the side here.
Right,
You know,
right. Confuse them a bit.
It's absolutely ridiculous to think that anybody. I mean, look, it'd be great if they did have the technology to do this, but you know what? There might be something somewhere that told us about the technology that they used to do it.
Well, I hate that some of them got blasted open, but I'm glad that they were so that people could see that they were empty, so that you can't say that they're tombs.
Yeah.
Because these are clearly boxes that were not made to be opened often
Yeah.
or at all. So
I
mean,
think they were
what
waiting.
would their purpose be?
I think they were there awaiting their maybe transporting, maybe some way of beaming me up, Scotty, or something. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe for giants that
Like
were
maybe it was the beginning of some kind of thing that they never finished.
maybe for giants, kings or something that
Could be.
left.
Could
I
be.
don't know. It's hard to say. It really is. A lot of these ancient cultures have a beginning story, right? They have a creation story, and most all of them come from star people. And they had these great people that came down, brought them knowledge or whatever. And I think it's funny, we look at so many things as fictional, right?
Right.
We're like, well, that was just their story they had there, folks.
Right.
But when you compare these stories, they all kind of have similar stories, and they put different, creative license, if you will, or
Right.
maybe they revisit it as someone different for everybody.
I mean, the basic story's pretty similar.
Well, it's like the flood.
Yeah.
There's no flood myth. There was a flood.
Right.
There was a
right,
there was a great flood. It's in all the. I mean, it's kind of like, look, same reason I believe in Bigfoot is the same reason I believe in the flood.
Right, because everybody has a story.
Yeah, might have different names,
Right.
different players, but still, yeah,
A couple different details.
Yeah.
But for the most part, there's flood.
Absolutely. And things that they thought were just bullshit, they find over and over eventually.
Right.
Look, we just found a big lost city in Egypt like a month ago. I mean, what the hell?
Right.
And it was right there. How do you still find stuff in Egypt? It just, once again, gives me to the point of we just need to do like Oak Island and have the big dig.
Right.
We just need to be like, all right, everybody out. We're going to get a big ass bulldozer over here.
I mean, it's just ridiculous how much stuff they find.
Yeah. And it's
things in between things, like we found these two huge palaces. Oh, let's dig right in between. There's another one.
Well, what's weird is how much it's kind of went up. You know what I mean? Like it's really business has picked up.
Yes.
Coming in at number 6, again, is one that might be number 1 in my heart, and a lot of these are. You guys got to understand, I live my spare time in these worlds, and it's just everything to me. I think about them so much that I dream about them. And this next one, I think most of you've heard of Darren Kuyu and the big underground city, right? So we're going back to Turkey, which, again, I don't know why I just don't live there because it's got so much. So Cappadocia is this ancient city area that is the most weathered ancient place on the earth, and they still try to date it to a certain time. But, I mean, the weathering alone makes you think that, God, it goes back so far. They don't really know. I mean, they put these ages on things and just because they have to. But it's not Cappadocia itself, but it's the underground cities. The why and the are they there and the amazing fact that they are there. It's a legendary place in the world, and its mysterious underground cities are unique to the region. There's like 150 to 200 underground cities. 150 to 200 underground cities. Only 36 of these cities have been discovered, and out of those, there's around 6 that people know really well. They say they date back to 3000 BC. Yeah, they do.
At least.
But I firmly believe because of the technology that it took to get, especially Darren Kuyu, to get what they had there, that these people are probably living out through the Ice Age. Just guessing.
Right. It just amazes me how much is there that they haven't really been able to explore.
It's really insane. These underground cities, which are among the most interesting cultural richness of Cappadocia, take tours from all around the world on a mysterious journey every year. The underground cities in Cappadocia, interconnected by corridors, were used as hiding places by Christians in the 7th century. These subterranean cities were self-sufficient cities with granaries, stables, rooms, kitchens, and ventilation systems. Derinkuyu itself is one of the deepest, most extensive, and amazing underground cities in Cappadocia. It was discovered in 1966 during an excavation. The underground city has 8 levels and many secret corridors. The floors include the churches, kitchens, places to tie up prisoners, sections for animals. There's one called Kamakli. It's one of the largest and most important underground cities in Cappadocia. Has all the accommodation needed for a community to live underground. The multi-purpose rooms and halls are connected to one another by narrow corridors. And today, just 4 levels are open for visitors, but still yet.
Right.
Yeah, there's Oz Cognac. It was open to visitors in 1972. While visiting this underground city, you'll feel as if you're in an apartment building. The labyrinth tunnels and elements connecting the venues are like the other underground cities. Tetlarin underground city opened in 91. It looks like a military garrison or a monastery complex, and it supplies churches and large spaces. Mazi is discovered by a shepherd and opened to visitors in 95. The meaning of Mazi is ancient city, and there's lots of early Roman and Byzantine rock tombs in the valley and the village where it was founded. Ozluz is unlike the other underground cities in Cappadocia. It's a single-story city, carved more largely and not completely cleaned. So, and that's just a few of them,
Right.
of the many. It's crazy
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to think of that. Now, I mean, even underneath Europe, there's thousands of miles of tunnels. Like it's nuts what's under our feet, folks.
Right.
And
you
not
just don't even know it.
yeah, not
Mhm.
even just archaeological discoveries. How did these people make it through? Maybe maybe the Ice Age. Maybe when there was stuff coming from the sky. Maybe when the air wasn't that safe to just be out there in all the time.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do?
Right.
How far would you go?
Right.
And I'll tell you, if you had nothing but that time to survive, you'd probably keep going down and make a Derinkuyu.
Right. I'd like to see some archaeologists like do an experiment where they live down there for a little while, like in one of the cities, to see how efficient it is and how comfortable and how easy it is to,
Yeah. Can
eke
we
out a life down there.
can we do that? Because I would love to. I can draw it for you. As far as
That's crazy.
Derinkuyu, I could
Mhm.
sit here and draw it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much I've studied it. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, the fact that they had places to put their livestock.
And prisoners.
I mean,
They thought of everything.
well, they used it continuously. Like,
Right.
now, like I said, hiding the Christians. They have some amazing ways to kill people.
Well,
Because
it's
when you're
supposed
running
to
through
be.
those hallways,
Yeah.
there's
yeah.
like murder holes and there is.
Well, I mean, it's good to live underground too because the temperature's the same. I
Mhm.
mean, there's a lot of advantages to that.
Yeah, there's not many bugs and stuff too.
Mhm.
You know, every now and then you got to fight the mole rats, but other than that, it's pretty cool. And moving on to the top 5. Do you like the top 5?
Yes, those are always my favorites.
Top 5. I just thought I'd say the top 5. It's like a top 5 list,
Right.
except it's not.
Right. Because there was 13.
Right. But moving on, it's one of the mysteries of the list.
Mm-hmm.
There's a mystery within a mystery. I'm gonna move on to Pumapunku.
Oh, yes.
One of the ones I just like to say.
Mm-hmm.
Pumapunku.
It kind of rolls off the tongue.
It kind of doesn't, but still, yeah. Where it's located does,
Right.
So that's one of those things that, of course, that is in Bolivia and the Andes Mountains and all that good stuff. But it's what part of the vast city? It's part of Titicaca.
Oh, yes.
Yes, it's one of my favorite cities. I just like to say I come from there.
Yes.
Where do you live? Titicaca. Anyway, Pumapunku. So we've talked about Pumapunku quite a few times, and in doing that and staying serious,
Mm-hmm.
because we're going to stay serious,
No, we're not.
dag nabber, I want to, talk about the things that make it special and the things that make it hit our list,
Mm-hmm.
and really hitting our list is one of the things is the weight. The stones at Pumapunku are massive.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest one described earlier weighs approximately 131 tons.
Good gracious.
The second biggest one is 85 tons. And people somehow brought them to this place.
I just don't understand it.
Yeah, and they say 1,420 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's highly up for debate.
Mm-hmm.
There are skeptics and true believers that really argue this one. This one gets argued a lot
Yeah.
because, number one, the Titicaca is way, way, way up there, elevation-wise. So it'd
Right.
be kind of hard to do this crap anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Then they argue some stupid stuff, like between the chiseling and the cuts and the angles, that maybe it was like poured concrete and, all this stuff, which would have still been ridiculous. And there's absolutely no sign that happened.
Right.
And of course, then they would have had to, set them.
Right.
So anyway, to put things in more perspective, a giant crane weighs 60 tons, roughly.
Wow.
And I'm talking about one of the big ass 8 wheels on one side.
Like skyscraper building
yeah,
cranes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that gives you an idea when you're talking 131 tons
That's just ridiculous.
for a stone.
Yeah.
And that's you think about a giant rig crane that can pick up giant things. And it's, twice as big as that, but all compacted. I mean, so how did they move those around? Even if it was 1,400 years ago.
Not only how, why? Why would they make them that big,
Yeah.
knowing how hard it was going to be to move them?
Right. Well, I mean,
because a stone half that size is still going to be pretty stable.
some of the doors and stuff there. I mean, well, the site location, like I was talking, is another crazy thing. So to go with your why, Pumapunku is located at an altitude of 3.9 kilometers, and that's 12,800 feet.
Right.
Okay, this means pretty much whoever is transporting the rocks had to work even harder because the site's so far above in the mountains, and Pumapunku is located above the natural tree line, which means that no trees grow in that area. So
they have to carry in all those logs they use to move all those stones.
yeah, exactly. The engineering part, it's still not known what tools were used to make such precise cuts, shapes, and forms. And, it's one of those things, there's no way that there was primitive. I mean, even drill holes and stuff
Right.
that are in it, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. The cuts and the forms and the drill holes and just the...
Even with modern tools, it's hard to get that precision.
Oh, my God. I mean,
it's ridiculous.
some of the cuts and the ruins there, because it looks like David Childress famously once talked about how it looks like there was some grand structure that really went through some kind of big time, I don't know, a deluge or some kind of catastrophe or something.
Right.
Got blown all to pieces, so it's just nuts. It's level. I mean, like, it's
ridiculous. Do you think we're going to find out one day that they were able to all do this and there's some really simple explanation and it's just beyond us? Kind of like when you watch those videos of people folding like fitted sheets. I can't fold a fitted sheet I could watch them do it 100 times, can't do it, but people can do it. There's an easy way.
No. No, I don't. I appreciate you going there,
It's just a thought.
but I don't think the fitted sheet theory has any weight in this one. So basically, even with some of the things they've done with the rocks, they found out that they've got magnetic properties, which will screw up the compasses and all this stuff. So there's a lot of interesting parts to it. And basically, they don't know how they transported the super heavy blocks. They don't know how they cut them so precisely. They don't know how they put that much work into it, when it was even built for real.
They don't know anything about this place, really.
Nothing.
Like, nothing at all.
Nothing. They know it's there and how to find it. And that's about it.
Crazy.
The rest of it is pure speculation. One last word on Pumapunku. There was a German archaeologist right after World War II
Right.
that had a theory on the age of it. And he went with something pretty smart, and he went with the astronomical alignments.
Right.
And by doing that, that's where he dated it more than 10,000 or 15,000 years ago.
Oh, so he went back through the astronomical records to find an alignment?
Yeah.
That's very smart.
Yeah, the where it would have been last time, it would have been aligned because that's how they were building everything.
Right. I mean, that's proven. It's proven that all
And
these
that's
things
how
are.
Hancock accepts the same thing, because right now it's about the best working
I accept that.
hypothesis.
I accept that, yeah.
so-
I would take that dating because it's proven that a lot of monuments are astronomically aligned, so that only makes sense.
And at number 4, like I said, Stonehenge, which is the beating of the dead horse.
Yes.
Right. We have talked about Stonehenge to such a degree that it is absolutely up there with the pyramids.
You beat the horse, necromanced it,
Yeah.
and beat it again.
Yeah. So it's basically What do you think? I mean, they keep finding more and more structures around there. So with
I know.
every year, the technology that advances, they come up with new things. They're like, holy crap, we didn't know this was here, that was here, these people came here. I mean, you can go back as far as you want to dig down, and there was people coming there. Yeah. And the structure was bigger and bigger and bigger, the whole complex. And it looks like, obviously, like some holy area is very important.
Right. I think they have no idea what it's actually, because of all the things they found around it, there's clearly a much bigger purpose for that space. It's not just the henge. There's so many other things that were going on around it.
Exactly. I mean, we don't know what its primary purpose was.
Right.
And that's what's important. Like we had a lot of things there, religious type things, Celtic, all this stuff. But we don't know the primary purpose. They think it was constructed over 1,500 years, which is also kind of ridiculous. I mean, that's a long ass time.
Right.
Think about that. That would mean that we were still constructing something today from the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
It's like, oh well, we're almost done with it, kids. Daddy, why are we still working on? Shut up! I'll sacrifice you on this here stone. Some of the stones came from wells, which is mysterious in its own right. We know that the first time, even though people have always respected it, the first time it's mentioned in writing, this is interesting, in the 12th century.
Wow.
So medieval Brits can't explain Stonehenge or why it was there, but they can claim to be the first on record for its existence in writing. In 1130, a record of English history was written by Henry of Huntingdon, who wrote Stangagazes and inconceivable concept of stacking the enormous stones on top of one another. Stangagaz. I love that.
I'm sure that's how it's said too.
Yeah. 6 years later, Geoffrey of Monmouth wrote down the legend of Merlin building the monument.
That's my favorite.
Via wizardry, implanting the myth in the collective British mind for the next 400 years. But hey, that was 6 years after the first time it was written.
Right.
His record contradicted Huntingdon's admittance of confusion on how Stonehenge. Well, maybe Huntingdon was a dumbass. Maybe
I'm just sticking to the Merlin theory.
Seems. I mean, hey.
That's my.
Anybody got a better one?
Yes. No, I don't think so.
So yeah, man. There's a lot there. There's villages there. There's so much that happened over the years there, over the millennia. It's crazy, insane, beautiful.
And definitely had to be on this list.
Yeah, and just a symbol, man, and everything around it. They keep finding more and more and more, around it that is really giving clues. And with the advances of science and LiDAR and everything, we may eventually find that smoking gun that tells us, honestly, if they just dig deeper. That's always my thought. Just keep digging till you quit finding things. All right, so that gets us to the top 3.
Ooh, dun, dun, dun.
Thank you. So in the top 3, I got to start with another one. Listen, this would be another number 1 for me, and of course that has been a recurring theme. But this is one of those places that you may hear when you're half asleep watching Ancient Aliens at 2 a.m. I think they've had it on there. I don't know,
right?
Or
probably.
Some random YouTube video or something, because it's so freaking bizarre. And it's just one of those that's so bizarre that it makes no sense and it messes with your mind. We're going to China, and we're going to the Longview Caves. Oh,
that's a good one.
Yeah, and that's like what the little Chinese girl says when I'm changing and she walks in, Longview. So in China, they consider this the 9th wonder of the ancient world.
Wow.
And it's the Longview Grottos is where it's, located, which are thought to date back at least 2,000 years.
At least. The key there is at least.
Yeah, exactly. Represent one of the largest underground excavations of ancient times and are an enduring mystery that have perplexed experts from every discipline that have examined them. In fact, they just run out like the Scary Movie, where they put the arms flailing and just like, ah! That's my favorite part of those movies. Scientists from around the world in the fields of archaeology, architecture, engineering, and geology. Sounds like Captain Planet. Archaeology, architecture, engineering, geology. We have no fucking clue. I have absolutely no idea how they were built, by whom, and why. It was first discovered not that long ago, 1992, by a local villager. Lucky dude. 36 grottos have now been discovered, covering a massive 30,000 square meters.
Wow.
Carved into solid siltstone, each grotto descends around 30 meters underground and contains stone rooms, bridges, gutters, and pools.
Mm-hmm.
There are pillars evenly distributed throughout the caves, which are supporting the ceiling and the walls. Ceiling and stone columns are uniformly decorated with chisel marks in a series of parallel lines. Only one of the caves have been open to tourism, chosen because of the stone carvings found inside, which depict a horse, a fish, and a bird. The Longgu Caves truly are an enigma, and there's certain mysteries about them that I wanted to go into because we haven't really talked about them that much.
Right.
First off, I will say those chisel marks
Mm-hmm.
are oddly enough found in some other places throughout the ancient world
Mm-hmm.
that we also don't know how they were built.
Wow.
And they're very uniform on that.
Mm-hmm.
It's strange. It's strange, man. This is really one of those that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
But the mystery of how they were constructed, there's a rough estimation of the workload involved in building these 5 caves. Is pretty awe-inspiring. The quantity of rock that would have been removed in the overall excavation of the grottos is estimated to be 1 million cubic meters. Taking into account the average digging rate per day, per season, per person, scientists have calculated it would take 1,000 people working day and night for 6 straight years to complete.
Wow.
These calculations are based purely on hard labor, but what they haven't taken into account is the incredible care and precision of the sculptors, meaning that the actual workload would far surpass the theoretical estimation.
Mm-hmm.
As for how they were constructed and what tools were used, it's still unknown. No tools have ever been found in the area, and scientists still don't know how they achieved such symmetry, precision, and similarity between the different caves.
Mm-hmm.
We've not even seen the other caves. There's no traces of construction, as I was saying, and despite their size and the effort involved in creating them, there's just nothing there. Although the overall excavation involved almost 1 million cubic meters of stone, there's no archaeological evidence revealing where the quantity of stone went.
They just spread it out in a really thin layer, like for miles and miles.
But
and
they
miles.
didn't. They checked
I
for
know.
that. Moreover, there's not a single historic document that refers to them.
See, that's weird.
And China has historic documents that refers to something I'm going to talk about next.
Okay.
And that goes back 5,000 years.
I'm pretty sure they found historical documents that were like grocery lists and,
So I'm saying
mundane things.
there's historic documents
Mhm.
that talks about something 5,000 years ago. That's pretty great.
Right.
This is 2,000 years ago, and there's nada.
Nothing.
Now, that's why it's not 2,000 years. It's more
Right,
like
right.
freaking 20,000 years.
And you would think something that was such a large undertaking would have a lot of things written about it, especially if you had artisans in there with the carvings and, doing all that work. And I've always wondered about the rock that came. That is a lot of rock that they took out of there.
There's no
And
explanation. There's no
there
way.
should be a big pile. There should be a mountain.
It's not like they had dump trucks come and take it somewhere.
I know. I mean, they should have. I don't know. It should be somewhere.
Yeah, it's somewhere, all right. And it's obliterated.
Mm-hmm.
Those aren't chisel marks either. That's machine cut.
You think so?
It's some kind of laser. It's some
Right,
kind of
right.
machine.
That's all. That's the only thing that really makes
That's
the
how
most
they're.
sense.
That's how they're so uniform.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way. That's how they're so uniform. Speaking of that, good segue. Every single one of the caves is covered from floor to ceiling in parallel lines that have been chiseled into virtually every surface.
Wow.
The effect is a uniform pattern throughout the caves, which would have required immense manpower and endless hours to create.
Mm-hmm.
Why? And that's the big question. And why was such labor-intensive work purely for decoration? Are the lines or patterns symbolic in some way? All that's currently known is that the markings are similar to those found on pottery housed in a nearby museum, which is dated between 500 and 800 BC. Listen, again, it's not some kind of important pattern.
No,
It's the machine.
if it was an important pattern, you'd see it throughout history.
Yeah.
It would have been repeated,
And
through the generations and stuff.
And it is in some other crazy places.
Right.
But it's not.
Mm-hmm.
This is just an enigma, and there's other parts to this enigma. When the caves were first discovered, they were filled with water,
Wow.
and completely brimmed,
Mm-hmm.
which presumably had been there for a long period of time. They had to be pumped out in order to realize that these were not just like the other bottomless ponds found within the area, but man-made structures. Most villages in southern China contain very deep ponds, which have been called bottomless ponds by generations of villagers.
Mm-hmm.
These ponds teem with fish, which are easily caught. However, after the first cave was pumped dry, not a single fish was to be seen, or any sign of life inside the cave.
That's very strange.
Inside any of them.
Right.
So again, I think it's odd enough that a lot of the villages have bottomless ponds that are teeming with fish.
It's like they disrupted the system. They pumped one out, and
I just think it's weird that they're like, somebody gave them these bottomless ponds of fish. It's just there's a lot of strangeness in
easily
China.
catchable fish.
Yeah. And the fact of how well preserved they are, one of the most interesting and challenging questions is how the caves have been able to keep their structural integrity for more than 2,000 years.
With all that water in them?
There's no signs of collapse anywhere, no piles of rubble, and no damage, despite the fact that in some areas the walls are only 50 centimeters thick.
Wow.
Over the centuries, the area has gone through numerous floods, calamities, and wars. The mountains have changed their appearance and exposed stones that have been weathered. But inside the caves, the form, patterns, and markings are all still clear and precise. It's like they were built yesterday.
That's insane.
And it gets crazier. Due to the great depths of the cave, some areas at the bottom, which are not exposed to the opening above, are pitch black. Yet even those dark areas are decorated with thousands of parallel lines on the walls, columns, and ceiling. So how did ancient people work in the dark? It's one of those big things of how was this done,
Right.
And were the caves meant to be connected? All the 36 grottos are distributed across an area of only 1 square kilometer. Considering such a high density, one cannot help asking whether some grottos were meant to be connected. What would the purpose be of making so many separate caves in such a tight area without connecting them? In many areas, the walls between the caves are very thin, only 50 centimeters. But it was like they were never linked, so it appears that they were intentionally kept apart. And what's more, the caves are almost identical to each other.
See, that's really weird because that has
It's
to
like a
be
housing project.
Yeah, because that means that they didn't go like they weren't natural caves that they expanded or anything.
Oh, no,
If
they weren't.
If they're identical, then
Yeah.
they started from scratch and did that on purpose.
They absolutely started from scratch. And nobody knows who built them. That's the thing. Some scientists have claimed that it's not possible or logical for such a mammoth job to have been undertaken by regular village people. Only the emperor and the leaders could have organized such a huge project, like the construction of the Great Wall, which was built to defend against the invasion from the outside. But if it was commissioned by an emperor, why are there no historical records of its construction? Because the emperor would have been bragging, dude.
Yeah.
You don't build stuff like that without...
Yeah, the only reason you build stuff like that is to show it off.
The scale of the Longgu Grottos is magnificent and momentous. The design was delicate and scientific. The construction was sophisticated, and the precision is indicative of superior craftsmanship. The model, pattern, and style of each cave is extremely similar, as I was talking. Every grotto is like a grand hall. One side is steep, another side is 45% inclined. The 4 walls are straight. The edges and corners are clearly put off. The chiseling marks are uniform and precise. According to Yang Hoxun, an expert of Archaeological Institute of Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, at the bottom of each cave, the ancient builders wouldn't be able to see what the others were doing in the next grotto, but the inside of each cave had to be parallel with that of the other, or else the wall would be holed through.
That's true.
Thus, the measure apparatus should have been very advanced. There must have been some layout about the sizes, locations, and distances between the caves beforehand. With the help of modern equipment and methods, the investigators measured the sizes of the walls and surprisingly found the overall construction is extremely accurate. The walls between the caves are the same thickness in every different section.
Okay, so that's ridiculous. Come on.
So how did they achieve the precision? What were the methods? And what were they used for? Following extensive investigations and studies, scientists and scholars have attempted to put forward explanations of the grottos, but none so far provide a convincing explanation for why they were built and what they were used for. Some archaeologists have suggested the grottos were tombs of old emperors, emperor halls, and places of storage, but this interpretation is very far-fetched because there's been no funeral objects or tombs found there.
They always go to tombs first.
Yeah, they have to. They have a bunch of hypotheses.
They have like a list, and let's
Yeah.
go through this list here. Number 1, tombs.
I mean, regardless, we've only known about them for decades, and they're insane. It's just That
The
is,
fact that the walls are of a uniform thickness in every direction, but you can't see into the other cave, that's ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah.
all the way down that deep. That's ridiculous.
yeah,
Like, I don't even know what to say about that.
yeah, yeah. Welcome to my world. This is why I wanted to go deep on this one.
Hmm.
This is how crazy it is, and it's insane.
Yes, I agree.
I mean,
agree.
it's insane to look at that and go, oh, huh. I mean,
Yeah.
something else was going on.
Right.
We couldn't hire Harry and the Henderson crew to
Right.
go in there now
Hmm.
and do it that good.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. And where the freaking stones are,
I have no idea.
that bothers me worse than any of it.
Hmm.
So, okay, Longview Caves.
That was a good one.
All right, so we've made it up to number 2. Number 1 and 2 are really hard for me.
Mhm.
I've went back and forth with them, but pick your poison. So basically, the best way is to start at the first of the Bosnian pyramids because there's a lot more to it.
Hmm.
So according to Dr. Sam himself, and he's got a last name, but that's just what I call him.
Hmm.
In April 2005, I first traveled to the town of Isako, 20 miles northwest of Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia. My attention was caught by 2 regular-shaped hills, which I later named the Bosnian Pyramids of the Sun and of the Moon. For thousands of years, locals have considered these hills to be natural phenomena because they were covered by 3 foot of soil and vegetation. However, when I first saw their triangular faces, same slopes, obvious corners and orientation toward the cardinal points, I knew that they had to be constructed by a force other than nature. Since I've been investigating pyramids for decades, I knew that the pyramids found in China, Mexico, Belize, Guatemala, and El Salvador presented the same case of pyramids covered by dirt and vegetation. In 2005, work was begun on this project, and I paid construction companies and geologists to do more core drilling and geomorphological analysis. I announced to the world at the press conference in Sarajevo in October 2005 that the first pyramids in Europe had been discovered. Shortly thereafter, we established a nonprofit group, and since that time, the pyramid investigations of Bosnia have become the world's largest interdisciplinary scientific project in the field of archaeology.
Hmm.
We spent more than, this was at the time of this, which is a long time ago,
Hmm.
but they've done the radiocarbon stuff. They've done all this. They keep finding more and more stuff. He goes all over the world, still just trying to learn more about the Bosnian pyramids. But this is where it gets even cooler.
Hmm.
Some of the discoveries are historic and changes the knowledge of the early history of Europe. And let me say, one of the biggest poo-pooers of this is Egyptologists.
Right.
One of the big reasons is
Mhm.
it's the largest pyramid now.
Right.
So, of course they're going to hate that.
Of course they are.
But it's real.
Hmm.
So these are the first pyramids discovered in Europe. The site includes the largest pyramid structure in the world, the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, with its height of over 220 meters.
Hmm.
It's much higher than the Great Pyramid of Egypt, which is only a measly 147 meters.
Piddly thing.
The Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun has, according to the Bosnian Institute of Geodesy, seriously, that's the word, the most precise orientation towards cosmic north with the era of 0 degrees, 0 minutes, and 12 seconds.
Wow. That is very precise.
That's very precise. The Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun is completely covered by artificially made concrete blocks. The properties of the concrete, including extreme hardness up to 133 MPs and low water absorption around 1%, are, according to the scientific institutions for materials in Bosnia, Italy, and France, far superior to any modern concrete material we have.
Isn't that always the way?
The pyramids are covered by soil, which is, according to the State Institute of Agropedology of Sarajevo, between 12,000 to 15,000 years old.
Wow.
Radiocarbon dating of the organic material found on the top of the concrete blocks and below 3 feet a layer of dirt and clay performed by the Institute for Carbon Dating of Kiev, Ukraine in August 2012 confirmed the construction was there already 24,800 years plus or minus 200 years ago.
Wow.
These findings confirms that the Bosnian pyramids are also the oldest known pyramids on the planet.
Hmm.
Beneath the Bosnian Valley of the Pyramids, there is an extensive underground tunnel and chamber network, which runs for a total of more than 10 miles. 10 miles.
Wow.
Ceramic sculptures have been discovered in the underground labyrinth with a mass of up to 18,000 pounds, which makes them the largest found so far in the ancient world. Several teams of physicists and electrical engineers from Croatia, Italy, Serbia, and Finland have detected and measured an energy beam electromagnetic in nature, coming through the top of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. The radius of the beam is 4.5 meters with a frequency of 28 kilohertz, strength of 3 to 9 volts. The beam is continuous and its strength grows as it moves up and away from the pyramid. This phenomenon contradicts the known laws of physics and technology. This is the first proof of a non-Hertzian technology of the planet. It seems that the pyramid builders created a perpetual motion machine a long time ago, and this energy machine is still working. Also, beam of ultrasound has been discovered on the top of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun at the same frequency, which comes in regular blocks of 9.333 hertz away from each other, with the peaks of 28.3 thousand kilohertz. These are the properties of the energy machines, not natural pyramid hills. By the end of 2012, source of the energy had been located 1.5 miles under the pyramid with an estimated power of more than 10 kilowatts. In the underground labyrinth in 2010, 3 chambers were discovered and a small blue lake. Energy screening shows that ionization levels of 43,000 negative ions is 200 times higher than the average concentration outside, which makes the underground chambers into healing rooms. Further electromagnetic detection in 2011 confirmed that levels of negative radiation through the Hartmann, Curie, and Schneider grids are equal to 0 in the tunnels. There was no technical radiation from power lines and or other technology found in the tunnels, and no cosmic radioactivity. Ceramic sculptures are positioned over the underground water streams, and the negative energy is transformed into positive. All of these experiments point to the underground labyrinth as one of the most secure underground constructions in the world, and this makes it an ideal place for the body's rejuvenation and regeneration. 200 years of Egyptology have not produced a satisfactory answer to the question of what the real purpose for the oldest and most superior pyramids. In only 6 years, our research in Bosnia has applied interdisciplinary scientific methods to look at this complex through the physical, energetic, and spiritual dimensions. We have had pioneering results with effects the entire sphere of knowledge and pyramid science. Our history changes with each new discovery. That's where it kind of starts, and all the stuff that they found, which is totally insane. If that was all I had, what I read you, and a lot of what I have been able to get for research has come from Ancient Origins. .net, and it's a great site to spend some time on. I just wanted to give a little bit of credit there because I rarely do I take verbatim anything. I like to do research, put my own spin on it, and a lot of times on things like this I have to take it from 20 different places,
right?
Just to get enough. But if it's all in one place and it's good, then this really kind of explains what I'm talking about. And really, the fact that we've had Dr. Sam Osmanagic in his own words, that was very important to me.
Yes.
Because he's like one of the coolest people on the planet.
Right.
And he's very open to all this, and he's been nothing but attacked, and someday he'll be heralded. They'll have statues of him and everything for these discoveries.
Right.
So there's something a few years back, but it was talking about the healing energy of the prehistoric tunnels beneath the Bosnian Pyramid complex, which is amazing. They did so many studies. They did so much to them. But the prehistoric tunnels beneath the pyramid complex, the electromagnetic properties we talked about, they found some healing properties for some of the visits to the Ravni Tunnel Labyrinth, including increased lung capacity, blood glucose level normalization, blood pressure normalization, improvement of general condition of the body, and aura improvement.
Wow.
There's examples for each of the things I just talked about, and they find more and more as time goes. There has been so many discoveries, new discoveries.
Right.
There's new things we talk about a lot here on the show. There's stories we'll have come up, and it's like, well, they found this now, or they found this, and there's this emitting from here, because they're very open with this one. I tend to believe that they found all the same stuff at the Great Pyramid.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I feel like I love this pyramid study because they are using so many different scientists from so many different places. It's not like in Egypt where the Egyptologists do it and you take what they say and they tell you what they want and that's it. And I think that place is even open to the public
Yep.
Bosnia. You can go in the healing tunnels. If I
Yeah.
remember correctly, there are testimonials of people talking about how much they hurt before they went under, and then they came out, and
That's why I want to go so bad.
they were feeling better, and what happened to them. And you can find them everywhere. And like you said, Dr. Sam, he's still traveling.
Mm-hmm.
He's visiting other pyramids to compare them to what he's finding in Bosnia,
Yeah.
when he can.
Yeah.
And there's always been that theory that the pyramids, since they're all over the world, were some kind of energy.
That's the
free
story we
energy
recently
system.
did.
Yeah, and the fact that that pyramid is emitting
Yeah.
energy, it's a perpetual energy. I mean, how does that not just prove it?
Mm.
And we know there's tunnels underneath the Great Pyramid too.
Well, basically, we can also tell from other, ancient world technology
Right.
that there was some kind of energy going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks as if they found a way to harness free energy. And Tesla was onto this.
Mm-hmm.
One of the greatest minds ever. Tesla was onto the whole free energy thing.
Right.
And, of course, you know what that gets you.
Right.
So,
I wonder how many pyramids are out there that have this underground tunnel system that they haven't even discovered yet. Because I know there's probably a lot of them where they didn't dig down. Or they didn't
I
look.
guarantee you they've discovered it.
Right.
It's
right.
just we don't know about it.
Right.
And a lot of it goes like with Egyptology.
Mm-hmm.
It's a business.
It is.
It's got a name.
Mhm.
It's got schools. It's got accepted parameters. Anytime you have a business, there are rules of that business.
Mhm.
There's a code of conduct. There's things you can and can't do. There's things you could try to do and then get blackballed and no one will ever hear from you again.
Right.
And anytime you get that involved into it,
Mhm.
it's kind of like war.
Mhm.
It's a business.
So, do you think that the pyramids in Egypt are almost as old as the ones in Bosnia?
Yeah.
I find it interesting that the ones in the Bosnian pyramid had that special concrete, because that's not the same. Like most of the other pyramids,
Yeah.
they've chiseled the rock out, but the one in Bosnia, it's that
Well,
old, and they were smart enough to create their own building.
If you
situation.
remember when we talked about the Great Pyramid,
Mhm.
we're missing the original coverings.
This is true.
It was never just those stones.
Mm-hmm.
It had the covering all over it that was been,
Do you think it had dirt and vegetation on it too
No.
at some point?
I don't think it did.
Mhm.
I don't know why this ended up being the way it was.
Mhm.
God only knows, man. I
Might
mean,
have something to do with the climate.
it could have to do with a lot of things. It could have to do with wars. It
Mhm.
could have to do with many, many things. Look, if we take the old kings list, right,
Right.
with this guy ruled for 30,000 years, this guy ruled for 50,000 years, and we apply any kind of, okay, that's real.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to this world, and this is what this is all about. It's not just me saying there's mysteries. There's stuff that just blow your mind,
Mhm.
and that's really why I wanted to kind of concentrate on this. Not that I got every one of them by any means, but I got some of the ones that really are perplexing
Mm-hmm.
and have true mysteries that are tangible. They're not
Right.
just some kind of mystery that's just, something I believe may be a mystery.
Right.
This is tangible mysteries
Mhm.
that are right here for your taking.
Mhm.
And they're, we want to go to the moon. We want to go to Mars. And that's all cool. But why not do something way easier and dig out what we have here
Mhm.
and try to find out what we have here and use people from every nation working together, the greatest minds.
Mhm.
And the only answer I can come up with is the fact, just like UFOs, the same reason that you and I in a private conversation last night, after watching 60 Minutes, which we'll get to,
Mhm.
talked about why would you notice a craft that does things that we can never do in our airspace every day, buzzing our boys.
Mhm.
How quickly would they shoot down a Russian MiG? How
Right.
quickly would that be an international incident?
Mhm.
If you thought for a second it was a Russian or a Chinese or, God, a Canadian,
Mhm.
anybody, you would have an international incident. There'd be planes scrambled.
There'd be inquiries. And,
Dude,
you know,
it would be
committees.
war
Yeah.
every day.
Mhm.
And yet they're told to hush it up. This didn't happen. And then you have these campaigns where you make people look silly and stupid that have had encounters all these years. Well, that only happens when you already know.
Mhm.
Somebody already knows. And everybody else is too scared to say anything.
Mhm.
And that's just how it's been for a long, long time. It's the same thing with these pyramids. They might not understand it completely, but they have dug down and they've seen something that scared the shit out of them.
Right. Something they didn't understand, that didn't fit into their box.
Takes
and
their
so
power.
They've decided that they don't need to talk about that.
Everything comes down to me, everything comes down to control and cash.
Oh, absolutely. It would ruin so many people if they had a free energy system. Oh, that would be horrible for some people.
I mean, it's like my dad years ago was working with my cousin on a certain engine that would run, like on water. And it was something I remember. I remember them talking about it many times. I remember like some blueprints, stuff like that. They were talking about stuff like that. But you know what happens to people like that?
What's that?
Well, they don't see them very long.
Right.
They don't stick around. And that's because of big business. That's because of all these things. And people want to laugh, because everybody lives in these little boxes, and it cracks me up because I see it all the time with the wonderful world of Twitter, which is the worst invention of all time. You have people just basically not thinking about what they're saying. They don't care about people's feelings. So they're really putting that feeling out there because they're scared to death that their 3.5 kids, their picket fence, their normal everyday life is going to be interrupted. They don't want to miss the game on Sunday. They don't want to miss their chance to hang out with the boys on Friday night. They don't want anything to rock this up. And that's the long and short of it. And I'm not like that. You're not like that. I thirst for knowledge. I want to know why this is like this. I want to know what's already here. Why are we being lied to is one of the big things. Why do we not put more effort into finding this stuff? It really, really bothers me why we don't have everyone trying to figure this out. I mean, why?
Right.
It's beyond anything that I can come up with, anything that I can understand, when we know for a fact that the highest technologies and the most amazing cultures must have been living and doing these things. Why? Who? How? Is that something we're going to find out soon?
Right.
With, maybe UFOs. I don't know. Maybe that's part of the reason that was covered up. Maybe it's all connected.
Probably.
But to get us even more perplexed, we have to go to number one, don't we?
Yes. Well, I see what you mean by all of these could be number one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, number one, I'm going to go just for the secrecy of it. I'm going to go to China.
Okay, back to China.
Yeah, we're going back to China. And so China, you got number 1 and 3. Congratulations. You won a free subscription to nothing.
You secretive.
Yeah. So about 100 kilometers outside the ancient city of Xi'an, there is some overgrown forest. And in those overgrown forests, there rise scores of pyramid-shaped mounds that have been shrouded in mystery for thousands of years. We first learned about them when Fred Meyer Schroeder, an American trader, first reported the enigma in 1912. At the time, he was traveling through the province with a guide, where he recorded a thorough description in his diary, noting he had seen one giant pyramid approximately 1,000 feet tall and nearly twice that size in length, surrounded by a number of smaller pyramids. Fast forward 3 decades later, and U.S. Air Force pilot James Gaussman would be left mesmerized by a pure white structure spotted while flying over Asia, said to be twice the size of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. He said the remarkable thing was the capstone, a huge piece of jewel-like material that could have been crystal. There was no way we could have landed, although we wanted to. We were struck by the immensity of the thing. 2 years later, Colonel Maurice Shan, a Far Eastern director of the Trans World Airline, reported the same experience. In the early 90s, German investigator Hartwig Hausdorff searched for the massive pyramid, but he was unsuccessful in finding it. But the reason why is kind of funny. Instead, he found the Chinese military. Today, Google Earth will show anyone with the right coordinates evidence of not just one, but around 40 known pyramids. There's like 100, 150 or something. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. But not all are easily distinguishable to the human eye. In fact, there's some rumors out there that they've been purposely covered up by the Chinese. And they're covered with trees and grass. Many date back 8,000 years.
That's probably a good estimate. I mean, you know,
right.
it's probably,
But it's not like anybody's in there to study them.
yeah, it's probably a lot longer than that.
Mm-hmm.
The region, in essence, is China's version of both Egypt's Giza and the Valley of the Kings in one, particularly because there's a huge amount of royalty rumored to be beneath the surface that no one has disturbed. And it gets really crazy. Okay, the story goes nuts from there because China will not allow anybody to get in there. There's some reasons they say that they don't have the technology yet to be able to go in there without damaging things.
Right.
And they point out King Tut, you know. So think about that, though. We don't have the technology to go in here and look at this thing that is ancient.
Right.
You know, like we should be so far above that. And another part of that is with the ones they have went into, there's been no emperor found. Okay, spoiler alert.
Right.
There's been no tomb. And, you know, that's where they always want to go because they also want to tie it back to China.
Right.
To the China that we know.
Right.
But some other crazy things is there's an ancient monastery there. And they've got writings talking about the pyramids some 5,000 years ago.
Wow.
And I mean, it's you know, it's there. And that just dates them there even further back. But these things are magnificent. And there's so much inside of them. And just think, you know, we just found the Longview Caves, for the love of God.
Right.
We you know, we've got the Great Wall there. It's got its own mysteries. I mean, there's so much. The terracotta warriors, you know, I mean.
Oh, there's some mystery surrounding those.
Just so much, man, that's just really, really.
Do you think the Chinese have people in there studying those?
Oh, yeah.
And they're just not letting anyone else in? I'm with you. I'm of the opinion that they don't want it to look like it's not from them.
Oh, yeah.
Like they don't want it to be something other than a Chinese construction.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't care. Again, I don't care who constructed it. I want to know more about, you know.
I would like to see it if it's really that well preserved because nobody's been in there messing with it.
They were saying 8,000, but there's something even crazier that's connected to it, and that's one of the things I want to talk about.
Okay.
And it really goes with the whole OOP art thing, the out-of-place artifacts. But in that valley, there is 150,000-year-old pipes.
Wow.
And, of course, scientists are baffled.
Of course they are.
Because it's completely out of place and out of time. But you've got the mysterious pyramids. And they call these things the Baigong pipes. And the reason is that near Mount Baigong, there's 3 caves filled with pipes leading to the nearby saltwater lake. There are also pipes under the lake bed and to the shore.
Wow.
They're iron pipes, Stacy. And they range in size with some smaller than a toothpick. The strangest part is they may be 150,000 years old.
That's
Dating
insane.
done by the Beijing Institute of Geology determined these iron pipes were smelted about 150,000 years ago. If they were indeed made by humans, it's the crazy thing. You know what I'm saying? Like that's if they were smelted. If not, they were somehow naturally happened.
Right. Natural iron piping.
I mean, they'll try to say whatever they can.
Right.
And, you know, because they don't think that any kind of humanoid was there till 30,000 years ago. And it's really nuts, but the pipes are just another part, and they do go to the pyramids. And, you know, so you look at things like nuclear cooling stuff. And
right, because it goes from the water to this potential energy machine.
Right, and it's just like, you know, we have those natural nuclear reactors that go back 1 million years, and I mean, 2 million years.
Right.
And it's just, how natural were they, you know, to be able to do what they did? I don't know, man. It's just, there's a lot more there. And I invite you on any of these. Please go research it. Go research it. If you know more about any of this, you know, I know we have a lot of listeners in China. You know, if you guys have been around this, if you've seen anything, please get a hold of us. Let us know. Send us something, you know, anonymous. You'll stay anonymous.
Yep.
Tell us whatever you want to tell us. And the one thing we'll never give up is your secrets as far as who you are. We'd love to be able to share some of these mysteries. And, you know, if anything we talked about for any of you, it's, you know, would love to be able to talk more about this. Or if you know mysteries that I didn't mention that you think would really blow us all away, be sure to share that with us, you know.
Absolutely.
Let us know, because this is something we take very serious. And I wanted to share a little bit of my passion with all of you
in a larger dose than normal. So
Yes.
my list may not have had a whole lot of humor this time, but it did have a whole lot of passion.
We love a good rabbit hole, don't we?
We do. They discover a lot too in rabbit holes. I'm not even going to go down that rabbit
That
hole.
rabbit hole.
But there's that.
Wow, that was a really good list.
Well, thank you.
Very rarely do you have a list where so many of the things on the list could be number one.
Oh yeah.
They were just all amazing.
Well, they all appreciate you. And for speaking of amazing, I think it's now time for some amazing news. And this is no joke. It's a lead in, but man, talk about mind blowing. Here's Stacy with some paranormal news.
Tonight, on a very special edition of Stacey Edwards' Paranormal News, Stacey Edwards will once again try to read an entire story without her husband interrupting with something incredibly funny and kind of warm. But other than that, the world has just stopped because 60 Minutes, basically the show of record, did a show about UFOs, and it screwed up all our news, and we have to talk about it first? Well, that would make the whole start of the news different. Well, I've been Andy Rooney, and I think I'm dead.
Yes, so we're going to get into something really cool that 60 Minutes has talked about. But before we get into that, let's just talk about the program 60
Yeah,
Minutes, first of all.
absolutely.
Just to sort of put it in perspective.
Don't know when
about
we'll have this chance again.
what a big deal what they've talked about is. What a big deal it is. So 60 Minutes is a huge program. It's a staple of American news programs. It's been around since 1968. So they've roughly got about 56 seasons.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're talking over probably
2,400 episodes. I mean,
yeah, that's just
somewhere-
an estimate.
Somewhere in there, absolutely. And I mean, just the people they've had as part of the show. I mean, you look at like Mike Wallace, Diane Sawyer, Dan Rather, Ed Bradley, Walter Cronkite's been part of that. Charles Kowalt, I remember him being hunkered down in places. Connie Chung's had a cup of coffee there. Brian
Right.
Gumble, Katie Kirk. I mean, everybody, even the commentators that we so nicely had join us from his death in 2011. Andy
Right.
Rooney there.
Yes.
But it's as Stacey said, just a staple of American television. It's was the TV Guide actually picked it as like the 6th most influential show in the history of television.
Yeah.
And it's the 6th greatest show actually in the history of television.
Right.
And what's greatest? Well, greatest would be influential. They've had their controversies. They've had their things they've broke. They've had things they've changed, just as news media does.
Right.
And they've had people that agreed with them and disagreed with them, and all this stuff. But the one thing that doesn't change is the fact that on Sunday nights, for half a century, over half a century, there's been many people that's lived their entire lives listening or hearing that stupid stopwatch and
watching 60 Minutes.
and watching 60 Minutes.
Yes.
It is a paper of record for the television.
Right. So this past Sunday, they did the story on UFOs.
Without X-Files music.
Exactly. Very serious piece. It was fantastic. And the host now is Bill Whitaker.
Yeah.
And what you're going to get if you watch this clip from 60 Minutes is you're going to get a very concise retelling of everything that's happened since 2017. And we found out that there was an ATIP.
Yeah.
But you're also going to get new information, extra information, people that have not spoken before
Oh, yeah.
have come out
one of my
because it's
favorite
60
parts.
Minutes. 60 Minutes calls and says, will you do an interview with us and go on
Yeah.
record? You don't say no.
Right,
You
right.
know, you do the interview. So when you watch the clip, it starts out, of course, Lou Elizondo's on there. They're talking to him, getting his point of view.
And he came across really good, by the way.
He did. He told the same story he's been telling
Yeah.
the whole time. But they did also interview some of the pilots, Dave Fravor and Alex Dietrich.
That was a surprise.
Now, Alex was a surprise. Number one, I didn't realize Alex was a woman.
For us, yeah.
Right.
that
Like,
was
I hadn't realized.
like, oh, Alex.
And two, this is the first time that she has come out. Now that it's been declassified and, acknowledged.
I love that
and,
part.
Yeah, because she made a point to say, it's unclassified now.
Yeah,
and
but
she
they
had
were
never
like,
said anything.
why are you just now coming out? In her head right then, it was like, it's 60 Minutes, dumbass. You know, like, of course I'm going to come out.
Right. But they gave a very detailed account of what happened when they saw, and I believe they were the Tic Tac UFO, but they gave a very detailed account. It was them two plus 2 other people, one in each of their planes, so
Right.
4 witnesses. They told, you know, which direction they were flying, how they were doing it, how
Yeah.
long, what happened, you know, the fact that they were watching it and then it just disappeared because it flew away so quickly.
It's actually one of the better tellings of the story.
It really was, and you could see on their face that how amazing it was for them to witness that and how strange it was. And so it was a really interesting part of the interview.
It was a good dynamic seeing them play off each other because, you know, one is fine and one is amazing. But when you have 2 of them playing off each other, you know, from the different planes and stuff, it was something special about that.
Right. And as it went on, of course, they talked to Lou Elizondo, but right along with Lou, they also talked to Christopher Mellon. Now, in the story, the way it worked was, you know, Lou got the original videos declassified, but Christopher Mellon was the one that helped him get them leaked to the New York Post.
Right.
And he just comes out and he's like, I'm the one that leaked them to the New York Post.
He's like, I can't believe I had to do this. Like,
he's like, it was the only way to get people to pay attention, to take it seriously.
Yeah.
And he said, it's a shame that I had to leak it for it to come around, for people to get interested.
He
and
basically was the kid in the back of the car with the sign saying, help me.
Right. And, you know, he talks about how much clearance he had. You know, Christopher Mellon had very high level security clearances, and he is sitting there saying, you know, this was not us.
Yeah.
And if it had been us, I probably would have known something about it because of the level of clearance I had.
And of course, being the 60 Minutes, okay?
Right.
Being who you are, hosting 60 Minutes, you have to ask certain questions. You have to come off in that skeptical mind. You have to. Because this is not going to anyone that's in the UFO field. You're going to the majority of common America. And when they're seeing it, you know, a lot of them are going to laugh this stuff off. So he's having to play that part. And I get that. So he's just like, well, I mean, couldn't it have been? Or what if it had been? And they're just like, nope, not at all. You know, and he came off great because he was like, you know, I know. You know, I know that we don't have anything that can do this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everybody they talked to and interviewed, they were all very sure.
Yeah.
And just said exactly what they knew. And I really liked how Bill Whitaker handled all the interviews. Like, he wasn't skewed either way. He just asked the questions and let them tell the story. They also talked to former Lieutenant Ryan Graves.
Great interview.
Yeah, an amazing interview. He talked about, you know, what he saw and the fact that this was a daily occurrence. I mean, they were being buzzed daily.
I think that's one of the sound bites that really is going to live long in this show. This is the kind of stuff like you see with people listening to old Kennedy speeches and stuff. That's how important shows like this are. That's a sound bite that'll live forever because they're talking to him and he's like, they're like, well, how often did that happen? Oh, well, every day. Every day for a couple of years, you know?
Right.
Basically the whole time he was doing that, you know, and it happens to everybody. And you're seeing these things happen. You're seeing these things that are unidentified. You're seeing these things that just don't make sense.
Right.
And my God.
Yes, and you're talking about people in the military that fly the best, most advanced planes that we have, talking about how they're watching things that are better than what they're flying. And they're saying this stuff is better than what we're flying. There was even a quote in there that said, imagine a technology that can do 600 to 700 G-forces, that can fly 13,000 miles an hour, that can evade radar and can fly through air, water, you know, possibly space. And
freaking water.
You know, there's no signs of propulsion, there's no wings, there's no control surfaces, but here it is doing all these amazing maneuvers and, you know, turning on a dime and things that humans can't do or sustain.
Yeah, it blows apart.
So it was really interesting. They did also talk to Senator Marco Rubio, who has been a huge voice in this whole UFO, UAP, you know, letting it out there, disclosure. He really wants to know. And they touched on the whole fact that, you know, it's an intelligence problem. It's you know, people aren't paying enough attention to this.
And it's a great angle. We talked about this a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
That it looked like this angle was what was happening.
Right.
And it's a great angle to go on. It's a bad angle in one sense. It's a great angle if you're wanting it out because you're going to have to pressure them. And you're like, okay, look, if it could be something from China or something from Russia, because right now that's the two bads, you know, then this is the greatest military intelligence failure in the history of the United States, the history of the world. And you know,
why aren't we trying to figure it out?
So people in defense are like, whoa, hold your horses there, fella. And they're like, no. And I think everybody out there is like, no, wait a second, Martha. Of course this is bad. So, you know, last night what happens is the water cooler talk today, you know, we're recording this on a Monday. The water cooler talk today had to be this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, it had to come up because if it wasn't for seeing it, you absolutely saw the micro content because every freaking paper, every freaking online story, every freaking thing out there is like 60 Minutes puts UFOs at the forefront.
Right.
60 Minutes does UFOs. And that is such a big deal.
One of my favorite parts of the clip was when they were talking to Lieutenant Ryan Graves, and he was talking about how, and he was just very frank about it. He said, you know, if these were tactical jets from another country, if it was something hanging out up there, that it would be this massive issue, but because they couldn't explain it, because it looked a little bit different, and they couldn't figure out how it was being done, that they just decided to ignore it, even though they were there watching everything the military was doing every day. And I think that you made the point earlier that, you know, that's not how you would react if you thought it was another country.
Right.
Like if you really thought that was another country sending spies in or planes in or technology in, it would be a huge issue. You'd have committees and you'd be investigating it and you'd be trying to figure out. You wouldn't be like, no, nobody.
We have protocols.
Right.
Okay, we have protocols. If we thought that was someone else. You've ever heard those stories like during the Cuban Missile Crisis, how we almost had World War III? Right. We almost fired the nukes. We only did that because of a radar glitch. Okay?
Right.
So something showed up on radar that we didn't know, and we almost pushed the damn button. Now, think about that. That's the kind of protocols we have. We don't have the kind of protocols where it's just like, oh, well, hey, there's stuff flying around. Right. And the whole thing is, and you and I talked about this privately, but, you know, when you go into the full story and you get the full story of the next day, you know, after this happened, because this went on for a long time, but, you know, essentially the next day, you know, you got your radar guy who was also name escapes me right now, but one of the people that has been talked to, you know, they showed up, they pronouns, pal, they in a helicopter, you know, we don't know who they are.
No,
but they showed up and they took all the stuff. They took all the telemetry and all that. And, you know, they outranked the guy, the admiral. I mean, they think about that.
Right.
So this is what always happens anytime I've been anywhere near anything like this. You know, you have the black Suburbans show up. And they get out and they're like, no, we'll take it from here. And everybody's just okay with that.
Yeah. And by the way, don't say anything.
Yeah.
You know?
If you know what's good for you.
Right.
How many times have we heard that over the years?
Right.
And, you know, all these people, it always gets back to me. All the people that's had their life ruined, their work ruined, their reputation besmirched, all because of them having an encounter. They didn't want to have an encounter. They didn't want this to happen. They didn't want to see a UFO. They didn't want this to happen.
Right.
And because they see it and they tell the truth, they become a laughing stock. You go back to Independence Day, the movie. So much is real in that movie. So much is real in that movie. Even when they're like, well, that's not exactly true, Mr. President.
Right.
You know, that's so real. And the Randy Quaid character, you know, who got completely, that guy would not have been living in a camper had people believed him. He was a hero. Right. He was a hero. And I think so much goes into that. We're like, yeah, that was a fun movie. Oh, that's great. That's real. that is a characterization, a Hollywood characterization of real. Because there's been guys who have been taken up. There's been guys who have been probed. There's been guys who have had these things happen to them, and they were the most traumatic thing. Now take it away. Don't let it be aliens. Don't let it be aliens. Think of someone you love more than anybody in the world. More than anybody in the world. I don't care if it's your dad, your husband, your sister, whoever, your daughter. I don't care who it is. Imagine them telling you, last night you weren't able to protect me. I'm sorry. I was taken. I didn't see who got me. I barely remember anything. I guess they drugged me. Mm-hmm. I know they sexually did things to me. And I know that they took things from me. And then they put me back here, and I don't know what to do. I'm really screwed up. Now, if that happened in any other context than you saying that you were abducted by aliens, how would you treat that person? Mm-hmm. Would you treat them as a joke? Would you make anal probe jokes?
Right. Make light of it like they're crazy.
Right. Would you tell them, well, I wouldn't say that in general people, you're mm-hmm. going to risk your job, or they're going to think you're cuckoo or lock you up. People have been locked up mm-hmm. for this. All because of the programming that on paper, we've got this written down, folks. We have the documents where they come up with the plan of how to, make people look stupid, basically, mm-hmm. to call it swamp gas,
right,
and everything else. That comes to my mind when all this comes out. It's hard to let that go. Be it because I come from a UFO abduction that I'm embarrassed to even talk about. I'm embarrassed to bring it up. I am. Mm-hmm. I'm embarrassed to bring it up. Mm-hmm. So is my mother. Embarrassed to bring it up because of all the years of ridicule and because I'm in the paranormal field. So you don't want to bring stuff like that up. I've had people tell me, "Oh, you're in the paranormal field. You don't want to say nothing about that." Why? Well, they won't believe. Really? Do you think maybe that could be the reason I'm fucking in it in the first place? Or anybody is? Mm-hmm. And how people go through without being screwed up. Luckily, thank God, I don't remember a bit of it. Mm-hmm. Nothing. I got weird memories of being in the air that I've had my entire life that no one has ever been able to explain to me, but I got to see strange looks from one family member to another when I would tell them, "Oh, I remember an angel taking me in the air, telling me behind me, hey, everything's going to be okay. There's special things we have planned for you." I do remember that. I've always remembered that, and I always told everybody about that. I don't remember what they were, but I remember seeing my swing set get smaller and smaller and smaller. I remember hearing my mom's voice. Now, this is the crazy thing. In my head, my mom was in her bedroom. My mom never let me that far out of her sight when I was that small. She was probably on the table beside me. Mm-hmm. And my mind has me remembering it like this, where she's saying stuff, where she's talking to me. It was a comfort thing. And I guarantee you she talked the entire time. Mm-hmm. And, she's probably the reason we're alive. They're probably like, "No, we take this woman back." I love you, Mom. But I'm just saying, mm-hmm. This happened. This happened right. to her. It mm-hmm. happened to me. Okay? Mm-hmm. I don't remember it. I will probably go through the regression at some point, depending on when they start, giving us payouts for the stuff they didn't tell us. Like, well, the settlement this year, the government's going to settle, $1 billion settlement with all the abductees that they mm-hmm. lied to when Eisenhower signed the treaty to keep them from eating us like cheese snacks, or what? I mean,
eating us like cheese snacks.
We don't know where this leads.
Right.
We don't know if there's we've heard so many people, but it makes you think of all the people that were really high ranking that released things, really high ranking that had these wonderful careers that just all of a sudden were like, "Hey, you know what? There's 17 different kinds of species that are visiting the planet. There's a galactic federation. There's this, there's that." All these people we scoff at or we barely listen to, even if we're in the field, because there's so much BS. You don't know what to believe. You don't know what not to believe. You see so much, you're desensitized. At the government's own admission, once again, they start making movies. They get involved into Hollywood. So they put these movies out that, on one hand, scare the crap out of everybody, kind of show them what it's really like, just to measure what would the reactions be. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What would the reactions be from people? And you have people that go and they want to make these shows like X-Files, and they have to consult with people from the government. You have, one famous one, Ronald Reagan in the White House screening room for the movies. They have the theater in the White House, and he's sitting there, and they are screening E.T. And Ronald Reagan famously, tells Spielberg, if you only knew how close this was to the truth. Something to that. Don't quote me.
Right. Something to that effect, though.
Something to that effect. Something just insane. It's so real. It's always been real. So then you wonder, are there good ones and bad ones? Does it go back to an ancient alien thing? Does all the stuff we talked about earlier that has no explanation? Is there an explanation?
Yeah. Is it all connected?
Is it us? Is it us from another time? Every day we get closer to almost, figuring out interdimensional stuff.
Right.
We don't know any of that. Is it angels and demons? Are we talking something religious? Is that what the Fatima was telling? There's so much out there, and yes, it's intriguing to me. It's exciting to me.
It is.
But at the same time, when I saw that on 60 Minutes, Stacey, it blew my mind.
Me too. And I was going to say, I know that we've been talking for years about slow disclosure and how they're easing us into it. And this one news story really felt like a step in that direction, like an actual step.
It had to be known. The government had to be known, right or wrong. They had to know this was happening.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure there was some sort of...
They had to be okay with it.
Yeah, there had to be some sort of consultation.
Right. And, I mean, it's not like it was a live interview. It was pre-taped, and they teased it. So, it's not like anybody said not to air it.
It's just crazy.
It is very crazy. Definitely look it up online. Watch the entire thing. You will not be disappointed.
I mean, are you going to learn something you didn't know already? Probably not if you're in this. Right. It's not the point.
No, the point is seeing the actual people talk about it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
So let's go on to another UFO story. This was our lead story before the 60 Minutes thing, and it's still pretty amazing. Now, on the last show, we talked about the Jeremy Corbell, the leaks, him and George Knapp, and some of the intelligence reports that they got that they had confirmed, and talking about different events that were going to be in this report coming up in June. Now, what has been released now is when we were talking about all those incidents, we talked about one where some people saw the UFO splash down into the ocean. Like it flew parallel with the ocean for a long time, and then it went down into the ocean just seamlessly into the ocean. Now, when we talked about that, originally they only released some still photos of that encounter. So now Jeremy Corbell has actually released the footage, the actual video, and you can go watch it. It's a black and white clip. It was taken aboard the USS Omaha in July of 2019, and it shows a small round object flying parallel to the ocean. It hovers for a moment before it just drops into the water out of sight. And you can hear a voice in the clip as the craft got closer to the water's edge, and somebody's saying like, whoa, it's getting close.
Yeah.
And then another person's like, it splashed because it just, went into the ocean. They physically saw it happen.
Right.
And it's an amazing, amazing video. That was the one taken off the coast of San Diego. Now, the clip that they're showing was taken on a cell phone inside the ship's Combat Information Center. This is actually a classified location on the vessel where you're not supposed to have your phone.
Right.
But somebody, thankfully, still took the video. And this particular video is one of the ones that the Pentagon confirmed was an authentic video.
Right.
So this is an amazing, I like this one better than some of the other ones we've seen because it does the air and the ocean.
Yeah.
So definitely a really cool video to go watch.
My favorite one's still the pyramids.
Yeah.
The damn flying pyramids. Because if you find any of the other footage out there of flying pyramids that show it a little bit better, talk about one of the most crazy cockamamie things you've ever seen. Is a legitimate,
something that doesn't look like it should be able to fly.
A legitimate pyramid flying around.
Right. Now, it does say in this particular article that around that time that the video was taken, 3 U.S. warships based in that San Diego area had numerous encounters with some unknown aerial intruders. At one point, one of the objects matched the speed and bearing of one of their destroyers for 90 minutes. And they were buzzing around them for several days in a row.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
it's nuts.
Again, just crazy,
And they do that
stuff.
because they're like, oh, wow, it's the military. They can't put anything out.
Yeah,
And now
they
like,
can't stop us.
They're like, sir, I have to show you something.
I'm very busy. What do you need, Johnson?
You just gotta see it.
Okay. What the?
I mean, can you imagine? I mean, right now,
Right?
do you think the aliens are like, well, shit, gigs up?
Yeah, they're on to us now,
I
buddy.
mean, they're showing the military stuff. They're trying to remember. It's like when you drunk text.
Right?
They're trying to remember everything they did screwing up the military now for like the past 30 years.
They're all watching the videos going, hey, that's me, that's me.
They're like, what did we do to that one destroyer? Oh no, that's not. Nunu, you didn't. That's not when you mooned them, Art. You know.
I dare you to fly alongside and then just dip in the water really quickly.
Yeah. Or let's send that thing the size of a football toward the window and and then veer off at the last second. There's so many
Right.
stories out there.
Yeah, it's crazy. So definitely no lack of UFO sighting news right now.
Yeah, we didn't even expect this one.
Right.
Like either one of these stories.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, well, we've had all kinds of crazy UFO stories recently. Well, we won't have any this week, and then boom.
Yep, there they all were. So one more story based around this report coming out in June, and this is just an announcement made by the Inspector General for the Department of Defense. He has now announced that he plans to conduct an evaluation of how the Pentagon has responded to the UFO phenomena.
Yeah, and there it goes.
Now, I bet there are some people that are cringing in their boots right about now.
Yeah, they're changing their BBDs.
So a memo was issued recently, and it says that it vaguely states that they intend to determine the extent to which the DoD has taken actions regarding unidentified aerial phenomena. And it goes on to say that they may revise the objective as the evaluation proceeds, but that they will perform the evaluation at the offices of the Secretary of Defense, military services, combatant commands, combat support agencies, defense agencies, and the military criminal investigation organizations. So they're basically, they're taking this whole threat that, we're having intelligence problems.
Right.
He's taking that seriously. He's like, I'm going to look into it. I'm going to investigate
Well, he has to.
where the breakdown was, what happened.
So, yes, Mr. Kitzmiller, please explain to me why, when you seen the craft shaped like a middle finger flying by you with no wings or propulsion system at the speed of light, stopping on a dime, mooning you, taking off up into the sky, and skyriding your mom, you didn't think that was important enough to, oh, well, I thought he might have been an Indonesian drone. I know those Indonesian drones, they do some crazy... Mr. Kitzmiller, Indonesian drones do not do this, nor do African drones, as you said earlier, or some African drones do, sir.
I'm pretty sure swamp gas does not make you high.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it must.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. I'm curious, number one, how long that's going to take, and number two, how that's going to go down. Like, if they're going to try and use that as an excuse as to why they didn't investigate this, or if he's really going to come down on some people.
No. It's all
Just
a
for
dog and
show.
pony show.
Yeah, just for show.
It's all a dog and pony show. This is all cover thy buttocks.
Right.
101. I told you when this first started, I told you a year ago that they were coming up, they were in a room, and they were coming up with something to figure out how to get their asses out of it.
Right. So that's what that is, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. All right, so let's get away from the UAPs now. That was a lot of UFO news. Let's just talk about some stuff that's going on in space. So after more than 2 years of sightseeing on an asteroid, the NASA spacecraft is now heading home with their sample from the asteroid Bennu.
We hear that's really sad, though. It has pictures, postcards, but it made some friends up there, and it's just like,
I know. Well, supposedly it's coming back with a sample of the asteroid for us to study.
Never gonna make it here.
It's not supposed to make it here until September of 2023 because it takes a very long time.
Gonna
and
shoot that bastard down.
You don't think it's going to make it, huh?
No.
And they did, it has sent back some cool like images and things like that, but they are really excited hoping to get this asteroid sample.
Mechanical malfunction. We've lost sight of it. We've lost communication. Don't know what happened to it. Oh.
Well, we'll just have to see. But that was, they're considering
You heard it
a
here first, folks.
successful mission. They did land. They stayed there for a while. They got their sample. Now they're heading back. It's going to take a couple years.
One time I heard that they were in reference to Star Trek and tractor beams and all this stuff they were coming up with that was on Star Trek. Somebody said, if your mind could come up with it,
Right.
it's been made.
Right.
It was.
Or if it's been in the movies.
Yeah, it's something to that effect. And I really hope we have pigs in space. Just saying. I really hope pigs in space exist.
Oh, I mean, it could. Maybe that's an alien race. That
was my favorite segment when I was a kid.
I loved pigs in space.
I loved it. I don't know why, but I just remember pigs in space. Last time, I love that.
All right, well, let's move on. Let's talk about this next article about how they're going to cover up the fact that they're going to find life on Mars.
Oh, yeah.
This is a new study that has now come out claiming that possibly humans could have contaminated Mars with life. So here's the way that they get around the whole we found microbes on Mars if they don't want to tell us. This is a study done by geneticist Christopher Mason, and he talks in this article about how, NASA and its engineers at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, they're very precise. They have protocols to ensure that everything that they create are free from any kind of bacteria or organisms. However,
unless you're in their closet,
even it says even in JPL's clean rooms, they find evidence of microbes that have the potential to be problematic during space missions. And supposedly these organisms have increased numbers of genes for DNA repair, giving them greater resistance against radiation, things that could possibly survive in space. So this is a whole perspective of what if we've accidentally taken some biological contamination up on the rovers and left it on Mars, and that eventually we're going to find that and mistakenly think that that is life on Mars when really it's just something we took up there.
Well, I'll go ahead and use one of my favorite British lines ever. Go ahead and pull the other one. I mean, have we been reduced to this?
It is a very long article, and boy, they are setting the groundwork there. That's what this is. That's what this says to me.
There's also the possibility that we took one of our carvings of a face and dropped the son of a bitch up on Mars somewhere.
Right.
No idea where, Sidonia, but I mean, something.
Well, it says in here, and this is one of my favorite parts of the article, and it talked about how there's already a chance that if we do detect signs of life on Mars, it could have come from Earth in the first place, since the first 2 Soviet probes landed on the Martian surface in 1971. Russians. Plus, then the U.S. Viking 1 lander in 1976.
Damn us.
And it says that there likely may have been some fragments of microbial and maybe even possibly some human DNA on the red planet. And so he's saying that we have to be sure that we don't fool ourselves that the life we find isn't originally from Earth. Now, he does claim that there is a way to tell it apart from any life that is truly Martian in origin, that somewhere hidden within the DNA sequence will be information about its provenance. But I don't know. I just feel like they're setting it up.
Well, Lieutenant Johnson, when he was getting the rover ready, we found this Bo Derek poster. And, well, we went back through some old security footage, and we're really sorry to say that. I mean, it was a really nice Bo Derek poster. Johnson had, well, there's maybe some kind of microbial life.
up on. Maybe Johnson can talk about it better. Anyway.
Well, anyway, just keep it in mind for when we do actually find the life up there, how they might try and,
Bullshit.
write that off. So one more story about Mars. This is a study that suggests that mushrooms grow on Mars.
Now you're talking.
And now this is not a brand new idea. The mushrooms on Mars theory has been bandied around a while, since about 2004.
By potheads.
Yeah.
Hey, man. Can you imagine smoking the first ganja that comes up on Mars? I mean, it'd be like the red green.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like the reddish red. Holy shit, man. I wonder what it would do.
I wonder if these are hallucinogenic mushrooms.
Of course they are.
Well, this is something that they say pops up by way of what they're calling rogue scientific papers every few years. And this particular new study has some pictures that shows, and here I'm going to show you these. Now, in the first picture, you see these spherical objects, and there's only about 9 of them. So the second picture was taken just 3 days later. And you can see there are more,
like
and
rabbits.
they're bigger. And so this is part of the evidence that they're using to say that these are mushrooms that are growing. And I mean, that does make sense. Now, the naysayers claim that this is just hematite.
Right.
But I don't know how they've established that either.
Well, they're naysayers. They have a naysayer guidebook.
They're just saying that. Like one person's
Can
saying
we write
mushrooms.
the
one
naysayer
person's saying,
field book?
there you go. How to naysay in today's world.
You could do A to Z on naysaying.
But I thought this was interesting with the pictures because it does look like something is in fact growing.
Oh yeah, it does.
So
Also looks like a sneeze close up.
and if there's fungi growing on the Martian planet, I mean, isn't that an organism? Isn't that some kind of technically some kind of life?
It is, and he's cool. I love fungi.
So anyway, I thought I'd just bring that up. It's really interesting pictures, compelling stuff.
It
I wouldn't
is.
write that one off.
It is. It looks like a bunch of little white balls.
All right. So while we're on the subject of space, let me just update this story.
Do you think it'll piss off the microbial scientists? Like when an alien just pops up. Like when they release this and they're like, well, we've had Rabbit here for, 50 years. Well, why did you call him Rabbit? You don't want to know. You really don't want to know. But he's been here. We only have males around him now. But, he's been doing really well. Do you think the microbial scientists just all quit and go become drunks at the time? Because they, every day they're like, well, we found this thing that looks like a hair follicle.
Right.
We're not sure, though.
It could be life.
We've taken it down to its nuclear origins. And I can tell you this much. 50, 60 years, we might know something.
They've been scratching their whole careers to find one little cell,
Yeah.
and there's like aliens working in the next office.
Yeah, they're looking for
in disguise.
It's I always think of it like this.
Mhm.
They're looking for it's always bothered me.
Right.
But they're looking for these little cells.
Mhm.
And if you pulled the camera back, it's in a footprint.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like so the dude's walking on Mars and
Mhm.
they're down here and this is what they found. They're too blinded by their own preconceived notions
Right.
to even think about there being a footprint there.
Can't see the forest for the trees.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
Exactly.
Mhm. Gotcha. All right. Well, let's continue with the space theme and update this story. This is about the things we talked about. I think a few months ago, we talked about those odd radio circles
Yeah, we
that
did.
they've been finding in space. They call them orcs.
They do.
And this is something that they found because there is a program called the Australian Square Kilometre Array Pathfinder. And what they're doing is they're trying to map the entire night sky.
Jesus.
And as they were going through some of the data from this particular project, they started noticing these strange, what they're calling odd radio circles. And they have absolutely no idea what is causing them. And even stranger, each one of these odd radio circles has a galaxy perched almost exactly in its center, kind of like a bullseye. And so the astronomers were able to determine that all the ones that they've found a new one. That's why I've updated this. At first, they'd only found like 3 or 4. They found a new one, but that they're all several billion light years away, and they're potentially as big as a few million light years in diameter. Wow. And nobody's ever seen anything like this before.
Wow.
Last year when we first talked about this, there was a paper published. They offered like 11 potential explanations, which shows you how much they have no idea.
Yeah, no,
this
is
possibly
next level
be.
baffling.
It is. So just updating, let you know they are still looking for these, and they are still finding them, and they are not any closer to knowing what they are. It's kind of like the FRBs.
Yeah.
It's like all these new things that they keep finding in space with the newer technology.
And the problem is,
no idea what
when we talked about this with FRBs, when you find the first one,
right,
that's all you see.
Right.
It's like when you discover tits. I remember I realized that every woman I had seen throughout my life had to have had them.
Right. But
And
you never noticed
I
them
never
before?
knew until the first time I knew.
There you are.
It's all been downhill.
Oh, well.
It's actually been a series of peaks and valleys. But
Last thing about space, just want to mention this. There is a blood moon lunar eclipse this month. Coming up on May 26th. So early on the morning of May 26th, it's going to be a blood moon. It's actually the flower moon, but they're calling it a blood moon because it's going to be a total lunar eclipse. So it's going to have this red glow. And unfortunately, the only people that are going to get to see the total lunar eclipse are people on the Pacific Rim. They'll get to see the total eclipse at 11:11.
oh no.
Isn't that cool? Now, everybody will get to see the supermoon. It's a supermoon. And everybody will get to see the full moon. They'll get to see the supermoon. But
So listen, we got friends out there that you talk about making a wish. If you do your 11/11 wish when the super blood moon's happening, damn, there's a good chance of that happening.
so basically, it'll be visible over Eastern Asia, the Pacific Ocean, the Western U.S., but most of the East Coast and Central U.S., we won't get to see the full eclipse because it'll be below the horizon line during that time. We will get one later in the year, and, there's going to be another super moon in June.
Right.
So, but this one will be really cool. Definitely go out on the 26th and take a peek at it. If you're in one of those areas that you get to see the eclipse, take a picture, take a video, share it with us.
Share it with us.
That'd
we'll
be
share
awesome. But cool celestial event.
There you go.
We're going to have to get our camera out, take some pictures of the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. All right. So next story is, guess what started now? Crop circle season.
Oh, no.
We've had our first crop circle.
Oh, that's the first question I'm asking
of
them.
the 2021
We have no idea what you're
season.
talking about.
So there is the first crop circle. It's pretty simple. It's just one circle. It's got kind of a pinwheel design.
It's not particularly simple.
It's very cool. It's, of course, in the UK, in the village of Stanton St. Bernard, and it's in a field of rapeseed.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if that's supposed to say grapeseed. It says rapeseed.
I don't know.
I copied and pasted, so
But
that's what it says in the picture.
It sounds like it doesn't do very good things to other seeds. Like,
I'm curious about that now.
we thought kudzu was bad. Well, I had a bunch of corn planted, but damn rapeseed came in.
Well, it's in this field anyway. And the farmer's not letting anyone come and trample on it
We
or
got
anything.
high
It's just
anxiety corn
standing
now.
there. But it's basically just a series of triangles. Looks sort of like a pinwheel. It's very cool, but this is the first one of the season,
We
so
got
definitely
some
more will
counselor
follow.
seeds coming in next week. I'm gonna plant every other row. See if we can't make them feel better.
Oh, very interesting. Okay, so let's do an update about the Chinese rocket. I'm sure everybody
Yay.
saw it on the news. It came down, finally.
It go bang.
Yes, and it landed in the Indian Ocean near the Arabian Peninsula.
We get you next time.
At first, they don't know if it hit all water or maybe water and land, but it did come down.
Wouldn't it be cool if a giant gong went off when it hit? It's like dong. I'll be damned.
People in Jordan, Oman, and Saudi Arabia reported sightings of the Chinese rocket debris. And so, some astrophysicists were coming out saying, it was most likely always going to fall
Do you
in
think
the
the
ocean,
people
but
in those areas are like, well, shit, of course.
of course it's going to come down here. But everybody's admonishing China for being reckless and not caring about
They didn't.
this thing.
And they were.
Right. And they claim that, it's all mostly going to burn up in the atmosphere. It's a little threat, but it's really not. I mean, it could have landed somewhere very important and hurt a lot of people.
We did much worse.
Yeah. So, So there you are, reckless China with their falling space debris.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not going to be the last piece. Somebody's going to have to hold them accountable eventually, right?
What the whole thing was, it never made it into orbit.
Right.
It was too heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like it almost made it into orbit.
Right.
And it
And
just
then it just
slowly
came down.
descends. Yeah.
All right. So another update is about the strange Havana syndrome. You know, the weird Cuba disease things. Well, it has been confirmed now that we have had cases on U.S. soil in Washington, D.C., and they are now being investigated. At least 2 attacks that we know of in Washington, D.C.,
I'm sure
where people...
one political party will blame the other one.
I'm sure. Where...
That bastard was doing it the whole time.
People have... have reported the same symptoms and still no definite answer on what that is. But
some of the press conferences I've seen lately, I'm pretty confident
somebody's using
somebody's
something in
melted
there.
somebody's brain. Duh.
Well, I mean, it is scary, though, to think that not only have they not figured it out, either they figured it out and they're not telling us, or they just not figured it out, but now it's on our terrestrial soil.
You think Cuba's like, screw you bastards.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with
Why
us.
is it going to be Havana syndrome from now on?
It's always going to be the Havana syndrome. All right, so let's move on and let's talk about this strange, mysterious creature that popped out of the water at the Wells Fargo Championship.
Well, that made some
on
people poop.
television. So this happened in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh,
The
I've seen
Wells
a lot of strange creatures there.
Fargo Championship was at Quail Hollow Club.
Oh, I've drove by that place.
Now, the Quail Hollow Club has a 13-acre lake, and supposedly there are a lot of large fish in there, catfish, things like that. And as someone was golfing on their TV screen and there was people watching it, someone captured a picture of something sticking out of the water in the background, like a huge fin or some kind of weird
Not a place you want to
water.
appear if you're a creature.
Right.
Because on golf, it's not like, there's other stuff to look at.
It is very, very crazy. If you can look at the picture, clearly something is sticking out of the water. They're trying to say that it's probably just the fin of a catfish, which it might be, but it is really strange and surprised everybody on social media.
It kind of reminded me of the Death Star thing. You remember when in the trash compactor when it stuck its little eye up, it's like,
Oh, yeah.
and it like put it down real quick.
He just wanted to be on TV.
It's like shit.
That's what it was. They just wanted to be on television. All right. So let's move on to an disturbing discovery
Oh yeah, we've had a lot of those.
people have made. And this is how humans could, quote, erase unhappy memories with groundbreaking new neurotechnology.
What's disturbing about that?
I have no idea. So it's a memory editing technique called decoded neurofeedback, and it was created supposedly for the treatment of PTSD.
It was created for the treatment of first wives.
And as they're explaining how this works, they talk about how it's like a MRI scanner. It
if they can make my creditors forget too, that would be great.
measures the
It's
various...
like, is this for me and everybody who that knew me during that time?
Right.
It's like MasterCard, just like we have no idea what Yeah,
Right.
it's all good.
Well, supposedly it scans your brain and it is able to detect places where you have these uncomfortable memories. And the way that it's
Like
being
the backseat of a
described
Volkswagen.
in this, it's being described in this article is that the technique would enable them to basically cut and paste activity from one part of the brain to another, basically fooling the brain into thinking that it has felt something that it has not felt before, and essentially teaching a human to not recall these painful memories.
I mastered that years ago.
However,
I felt many things that I've never felt before.
there is a neurologist going on the record saying that he has grave concerns about the way it could be used in the future with targeted editing and suppression of memories.
Nefarious.
Could include the possibility for interfering with a person's identity or brainwashing them or implanting false memories.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, that's what you're doing. You're
I can
in there.
see a lot more good than bad.
I mean, it could be used for good. Essentially, anything that they use for good could potentially be used for bad, as long as that's why they're really creating it. But it's definitely next level technology, being able to get in there and mess around.
So we're going to start with the boys' choir.
Right.
We think they'll be very good in society. Moving on.
Okay, let's move on. So let's talk about something that was said by the defense minister of Russia. Something interesting. His name is Sergei Shoigu, and he was on an online session of the Russian Geographical Society last month. And he was talking, and he suggested using the DNA of 3,000-year-old Scythian warriors to potentially bring them back to life.
No.
Yes. Now, supposedly...
Dude, look at me.
Uh-huh.
From a historian guy?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm. I know.
No, there's other ones we could, no.
Right. Now, supposedly 2 decades ago, archaeologists uncovered the well-preserved remains of the soldiers in a kurgan, which is a burial mound, in the Tuva region of Siberia. Now, because this is in southern Siberia and much of it is permafrost, all of these remains were very well preserved. And, you know, he's saying, of course, we would very much like to find the organic matter. And he said, I believe you understand what would follow that. Now, it claims in this article that to date, no one has ever cloned a human being, so they say. But scientists have successfully, you know, done cloning before. And just the fact that he threw that out there like it was no big deal.
Right.
Like, hey, we have these warriors. We should...
We're currently locked up in a facility somewhere.
We should clone them.
Yeah.
No. So, interesting... Side note, it's not
In
not
a strange turn of events, Russia has decided to do a ground attack on horseback.
Now, it's not saying that they are doing it, and it's not saying that they plan on doing it, but just the fact that he said it, and they made it into an article, and it's been suggested, and it's been put out there, it's weird.
No, dude. This is why we find, like, pig-headed men in the forest. I mean...
Right, you know?
It's, no.
Pig-headed men.
You know it's true.
I know. Oh, all right. So let's do some...
It's a power that I don't even want. I'm Gandalf when it comes to that.
Right.
Like, it's like someone putting a ring near me. You know what I'm saying?
Don't give me
Get that away from me. I can't have power over putting a freaking tortoise head on a chick. You know, I mean, like, it just can't happen. Like,
don't give me the gene splicing.
Octopussy would be a whole new movie. I'm just saying.
Oh, wow. At least you know your limitations, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't need to be around that. I do not. No playing God for me.
All right. Well, let's do some celebrity news. All right. So this next story is about Demi Lovato, one of our favoriteest people. And supposedly she's going to host...
You know, I could use that forget thing to get laid. Like, I was just thinking when you said Demi Lovato, it could be like meet her at a bar or something. Be like, hey, you know what? What do you think? Oh, really? So you're not that into it, but what about this? This little pill right here, you'll forget the whole thing ever happened.
Wow.
But I won't. I mean, come on.
Again, you need to not be near the technology.
Just saying. If you could forget the last 6 hours, I mean, we could really market this.
Right.
I'm just saying.
That would definitely be something used for nefarious purposes.
Yeah, it would.
All right. So Demi Lovato will be hosting an unscripted UFO investigation series on Peacock.
Yes.
So it's
I've defended this
called Unidentified with Demi Lovato. And it's going to be her and her skeptical best friend, Matthew, and her sister, Dallas. And they're going to attempt to uncover the truth about the UFO phenomena. And I believe they're going to have like experts on there, and they're going to investigate recent eyewitness encounters. And I think they're going to do some of those tests. You know, she's really into that contact in the desert and things like that. So I'm sure she's going to bring all that knowledge in and try and put a new spin on it, hopefully. I'm not sure.
What are all these channels going to do when the aliens are like, when it's all revealed,
right?
And the aliens can actually be among us?
Mm-hmm.
They're gone. Like, all these shows are gone.
Right.
Instead, it's going to be like...
It's going to be alien reality shows.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's going to be My Gray Wedding, you know?
They're going to have like a whole new real life, but it's going to be aliens and humans all in the same house. Can they coexist?
Yeah, 50 Shades of Grey. Oh.
Oh, that's a whole new meaning.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Peacock has ordered 4 episodes, so we'll get to see how that goes. And I suppose if it's good, they'll, order more episodes.
Jesus, they better get to it in 4 episodes.
All right, so let's talk about this next story. And this is a paranormal thing that happened to Motley Crue icon Tommy Lee. Now, him and his wife, Brittany, are currently living in a haunted house. Now, his wife, Brittany Ferland, she is a social media personality. You know, she has a lot of followers. So on her channel, she was doing a video from this house that they are living in. Now, it's just a temporary house because they sold their house and they bought a new one, but they needed to renovate it. So they bought this temporary house to live in until their new one was ready. And she started taking this video of their trash can in their house. Now, it's an automatic trash can with a sensor where you put your hand in front of it in order for it to open. And she is standing in the kitchen behind a counter, nowhere near it, nobody's near it, and she is asking for the spirit to open the trash can. And she's like, I swear it just did it before I started recording. Isn't that always the way?
Oh, yeah.
And she said, it opened on its own. And she said, I'm just going to show you. And she walks over to the trash can and she waves her hand in front of it in like every direction possible until she finally puts her hand right on it. And you basically have to touch it to get the trash can to open. She's like, that's how hard it is to get this to open. It's not just something waving in front of it. So then she backed back off and she said, I'm going to ask the spirit by name. Now, as it turns out, they found out after they moved in that the person that lived in the house before they bought it, his name was also Tom, and that he died in the house. Now, she moved back into the kitchen. She said, Tom, can you open the trash can for me? And bam, that thing opened.
Instantly.
Yeah. It was crazy. And you can hear Tommy in the background going, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So very interesting video. Definitely pretty credible.
Yeah, man. It's pretty crazy. I mean, it's that's the kind of time you regret ever doing Shout at the Devil.
Right.
It's like, I didn't write that. It's just kind of beating my shit back there. And, no, that's that. It was a great piece of evidence. I mean, it was really cool looking. Even regardless, it's you should go look at it.
Yeah, definitely go watch the video. It's very cool, and I like that she tried to show all the different angles. You can tell it's not been messed with.
Right.
So, all right. So let's move on and let's talk about now. Do you remember years ago? When No, I don't remember years ago when the Toys R Us's were closing down, and we talked about one in the Bay Area. It's an infamous haunted Toys R Us. There's an article saying that Sunnyvale's Toys R Us, which closed in 2018, has now been sold, and a big box store called REI announced this week that it's going to be moving into that location.
Oh no.
The famously haunted building. Now, nobody's been in there since Toys R Us moved out.
Oh no.
They have used it here and there for things. I think it's been like a spirit Halloween store, those pop-up Halloween costume stores a couple of times. But this was a very famous building that was originally built in 1970, and almost immediately employees reported strange happenings. Like toys would fly off the shelves, people felt phantom touches, the faucets turned on and off by themselves, and it became legendary among paranormal investigators in the late 70s, and even had several seances done by Sylvia Brown. I don't think those ever amounted to anything. Like, I don't think the information that she got was very credible. I don't think they could prove any of it, but they did show it on That's Incredible, which really launched it into its international fame.
Yeah, I remember it.
Now, the story behind this particular location was there was a family that lived there named the Murphys. And the Murphys were one of early California's most fascinating families. It's Martin and Mary Murphy. And they were from Ireland. And they were in the first wagon train to cross the Sierra Nevadas. And during the winter of 1844, Mary gave birth to a daughter named Elizabeth. And several weeks later, baby Lizzie fell into the Yuba River, and they were able to fish her out, but then they gave her the middle name Yuba. But once they were settled in this area, basically their ranch was the entire town, the whole entire area. And when Elizabeth finally married, the Murphys gifted her and her new husband 3,000 acres, which is all of today Los Altos Hills. So all of this area around where this Toys R Us is, this whole town, it was all belonged to one family. Now, this family, their eldest son, James, died of consumption in their house in 1851 on this property. Elizabeth and her husband both passed away young in 1869. And then there was the strange case of a man named Fred Hoffman, who was the brother-in-law of Elizabeth and William's son. Now, he died on the property in 1894 when he was working on a pump in the farm well. Unfortunately, the well was next to a leaking gas tank, and when he failed to show up, they found him dead at the bottom of the well. He had asphyxiated on the gas fumes.
Oh, my goodness.
And whenever Martin went down to retrieve the body, he lit a candle to guide his
my
way.
God.
And he was blown out of the well by the explosion. He did survive. He was badly burned, but he did survive. But all of these things happened right on this area, right near where this Toys R Us is built, because this was where their home was. And so there's a lot of reasons why this building should and could be haunted.
Mm-hmm.
And, so definitely a famous building. I'm curious when this new company moves in, if they're going to, they're going to be doing construction. They're going to go in there and renovate.
Yeah, that won't hurt anything.
Yeah, so that's going to drum up some ghostly activity. I can't wait to find out if they start having activity. Like after they open, like a month after they open, I just want to call them and be like, look, stuff going on.
It'll never get done.
I want to ask
construction workers.
I want to ask the employees. They'll just all run out and leave their
It'll be
their
an
tools.
episode of Ghost Adventures. Zach will have to buy it. He'll be like, what happened? Well, we had these construction workers in here.
Mm-hmm.
They ran off and left their toolboxes and their drills, and it's just the craziest thing. Their boots. They came out and ran around all their boots.
Yeah. It'd be cool if they let somebody get in there and investigate it before they opened.
It would.
After the construction was being done and stuff.
I believe that's a hint.
Yeah. Hint, hint, hint. Somebody investigate that. All right. So I've got a few more stories here. This one is so cool. It is about a shrunken head.
Ah.
And this is a shrunken head known as a Sansa, was used as a prop in a movie, John Huston's Wise Blood movie. And it has been confirmed to be composed of human tissue. It's a real
it's a real shrunken head.
Yes. Now, these shrunken heads, they're sacred artifacts.
Yes, they are.
And this particular one was obtained by Mercer University in 1942 after a former faculty member acquired it in Ecuador. And they happened to have it at the university, and when they were making that movie, they loaned it out to John Huston to use in the film. So several people handled it, and it wasn't necessarily treated with the most respect. And they have been trying for years now to verify if it was an authentic artifact, because they wanted to return it to Ecuador's government if it turned out to be authentic. And finally, they did some CT scans. They took some samples, and the experts have come back and said that this, yes, is in fact made of actual human remains. And so now they are going to reappropriate it back to where it belongs. There's a lot of belief around these artifacts that they supposedly made from the skin of enemies slain during combat. And it's believed that they held the spirit of the victim and all their technical knowledge, and thus were considered to possess supernatural qualities and represent a source of personal power for the owner. So, when you're in combat and you've killed this person, they didn't take that lightly. They took the skin, they took the remains, and they made this artifact that supposedly held that person's spirit.
Back in my day, we didn't just leave the damn bastard lying on the ground.
Right.
We cut his head and shrunk the son of a bitch down and stuck it in our pockets.
I don't think I ever realized that they didn't actually, I thought they had some kind of weird technique to actually shrink the head. Like you boil it in water for 12 hours and it reduces in size or something. That's not the case. They just take the skin and make a head out of it. It's very creepy.
Yeah. That's disgusting.
It is. And if I was an actor in that movie, knowing I had touched that, that's gross. Because I'm sure they probably thought it was just a prop.
You touch worse things at McDonald's.
Probably. But it is nice that they're going to send that back to where it belongs. A lot of that going on lately.
Can you add water and make it big again?
I don't know, reconstitute it. That'd be terrible. That'd be terrible. All right. So let's talk about this awesome thing that was found in New Brunswick. This family, when they were out walking, found a message in a bottle on Hopewell Rocks Beach. Now, they found this back in 2017, and they've been studying it ever since because it is a message from a passenger of the Titanic.
Bull.
No, they believe it really is.
I'm sure
So
they do.
The letter is dated April 13th, 1912, which is the day before the Titanic sank. And it's signed by a 13-year-old girl called Matilda Lefebvre. And it's translated from French. It says, "I am throwing this bottle into the sea in the middle of the Atlantic. We are due to arrive in New York in a few days. If anyone finds it, tell the Lefebvre family in Leuven." So according to the University of Quebec, the bottle was still sealed when it was found by the family, and they tested like the paper and the bottle. Everything about it does date it to the proper time for it to have been on the Titanic. Now, they contacted descendants of this family to find out about Matilda and, who was on the boat with her. And they explained that young Matilda had been a third-class passenger on the famous ship with her mother and 3 of her siblings. They were going to join her father, who had left in 1910 with 4 of their children to try his luck in America. And they were on their way to join them. Which is incredibly sad, because if she was really a third-class passenger, those are not the ones that they were taking off the ship very quickly. So they concluded, as far as the tests, they've examined the composition of the bottle, the cork, the paper, the ink, and they looked at all the currents and erosion processes that would have led the bottle to make it to this particular location. And they've concluded that they were not incompatible with the date. That's the way they put it. And that there was, even though it was a very slim chance, there was a scenario with the currents that would cause the bottle to eventually end up where it was. So it is all falling into place. Very interesting thing to find.
I don't know what the worth is on that.
I don't know.
I don't know. Be astronomical.
I believe they contacted members of the family, and they showed up to kind of see where it was found, and I'm sure that they'll have a claim on it, considering it was something from their family.
The hell with that.
They'll just put it in a museum somewhere.
Yeah, I found it. It's not like I found her body or something.
Well, I mean, it's sad because she was 13, but it's interesting that, that was found after all these years.
She's like Middle Ages back then. I mean, she's an old maid. I'm off to get married.
All right, so let's go on to this next story. This is just something I wanted to talk about for anyone that would be interested in this. It's the Haunted Pamlico Film Festival. They're seeking entries for the film festival and a paranormal photo contest, amateur photo contest. So if you're interested in entering this, you go to hauntedpamlico.com. It's the 3rd annual Carnival of Darkness Film Festival. It's basically a celebration of sci-fi and horror films from all over the world. It's in September this year, and they are accepting submissions for the contest from now until August 1st. It's for amateur photographers, and basically they want you to send in your favorite frightful photo. The subject can be almost anything: an abandoned house, a Halloween prop, a costume model, as long as it fits into the haunted Halloween horror type theme. And there's not like any money, but you do get the recognition. They will put it up. It's kind of just a cool contest to enter in. And they're also accepting submissions from writers as well to do the 2nd annual Haunt Season writing competition. So if you're really into all those horror themed type things and you like to take pictures, there you go. Something you can get a little recognition for your work. All right. And speaking of horror, I'm going to give you a story of something that happened, and it sounds like it is straight out of a horror movie. It is the most horrible thing I've heard of recently. This is a story from El Paso, Texas. And it's about a woman who woke up. She's sleeping in her room, and she started feeling some water dripping on her. And she lives in an apartment, so she thought the apartment above her had sprung a leak. So she got up and she turned her light on, and her entire room was sprayed in blood. There was blood dripping from the apartment above her, and her ceiling fan was on. And as she slept, it dripped on her, it hit her ceiling fan, it got slung around the room, and it pulled on her bed. So, of course, she freaked out, and she went outside. She called the authorities, and she asked them to please come and investigate. So we went to the apartment. The authorities went to the apartment above hers. They knocked on the door. There's no response. They forced their way in, and unfortunately, the tenant in that apartment had passed away. He had passed away on the floor right on top of her bedroom. And as he decomposed, all of that soaked through the ceiling, and that is what was dripping on her as she slept.
Oh, my God.
So hazmat teams had to come in. She's basically lost everything in her room. They took all the walls. I mean, anything that had material on it had to be taken out. And all I could think of was that she was laying there, and how long did it drip on her while she slept? Because it was pulled on the bed, and I sleep with my mouth open, and it hit the ceiling fan and slung all over the room.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting.
I can't. I mean, they even tell you when you read the story to, graphic images because they show you pictures of the room with the. Oh, it's awful. It is awful. Straight out of a horror movie. I feel so bad for that poor woman.
Well, I mean,
could you imagine what it looked like?
Feel kind of bad for the person upstairs too.
Well, yeah, that was pretty bad too. They didn't go into a lot of detail about what happened to him.
While they melted?
Yeah, I don't know if it was just hot in there and nobody had, he had been dead for several days. And I don't want to live in an apartment now.
Not with anybody on top of you.
I don't think it was anybody that she knew. I think she said that none of the neighbors really knew. I guess he was kind of loner, kind of hermity. And nobody really knew who he was.
Just kind of hangs out.
On the floor.
Yeah.
In the room. Because you know what happens when you pass away? All your bodily functions.
Death rattle.
Everything comes out. Oh, that's part of what soaked through. Oh, it's awful. Okay, let's just do this last story, shall we?
Yeah, thanks for that.
All right, so this is a story from California, and it's about a rarely spotted football fish, which lives thousands of feet deep in the ocean, washed up on the beach. Now, a football fish is a type of anglerfish. One of the ones that lives in the dark with the little weird thing.
Light,
that hangs over the top. And these are typically found thousands of feet deep in the ocean.
Yeah.
They have no idea how this thing ended up on the beach, but it landed on the beach in Crystal Cove State Park. I would like to stop here and point out that Crystal Cove is the name of the town in Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated.
There you go.
I don't know if there's a connection there.
It could be.
Anyway, so really strange. They have no idea what happened to this, but there was some interesting facts in this story about this particular football fish. They claim that only females possess that long stalk on the head with the bioluminescent tips to lure in and entice their prey.
Of course.
Because they live in the water, it's all dark down there. It's 3,000 feet down.
Yeah.
They have teeth like pointed shards of glass.
Oh, look at me. I've got a nice little light.
Transparent.
You want to see when I come to the light?
And they're able to swallow prey the size of their own body. Now, according to the park, this female football fish that they found says they can grow up to 24 inches long, but the male of the species only grow to be about an inch long. That seems a bit disproportionate. And the sole purpose of the male of the species is to help the females reproduce. That is the only thing that their purpose is.
That's kind of part
only
of the
thing
course.
they live for. It says that the males latch onto the female with their teeth and become what they're calling, quote, sexual parasites, eventually coalescing with the female until nothing is left of them except their testes. That is the life of a male football fish.
So it just kind of footballs in and out, or
no? It basically
like its whole body?
It takes its teeth and bites on, and then I guess she absorbs it until there's nothing left but the testes to use for reproduction.
Oh, Jesus.
That's it.
It's exactly like human beings. You just latch onto one until there's nothing left of you except your balls. Because you haven't had those for years.
The fish they found is currently in the custody of the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. They're trying to determine what happened to it and why it washed up on the beach. And that thing is terrifying. I'm telling you, deep ocean is creepy weird.
Yeah, we've only seen like a portion of it.
I know.
And there's no telling what's down there.
I can't imagine what happened to that fish that made it swim up out of the water and land on the beach.
It's kind of scary, isn't it?
It is. All right. So that is all my news.
Well, thank you for most of those.
You're welcome.
Don't ever bring anything to the table like that again. Ever.